Chapter 31. Fat Sheep? Hungry Wolf. Soon, Evans came to another gaming table. Here is the burn card, which is similar to the poker in the previous life, but the number and gameplay are very different, but after all, they are all cards, and there is not much difference in essence. As before, when Eli arrived, he was sent directly to the center of the gaming table. Unlike the previous one-on-one games, this game is a group game. Sir, I'll introduce the rules to you. Evans introduced the same as just now, the only difference is that this time, he also greeted the waiter directly. I mean, play to the death. During this process, Eli looked at the gaming table with interest as before. Humph, you will cry later. Evans thought viciously. Soon the game starts. First round. Eli won a silver tar. Evans glanced at the waiter suspiciously, and the waiter signaled that he was just lucky. Second game. Eli lost 10 silver tars. Evans breathed a sigh of relief and looked at Eli, as if he had seen the scene of Eli crying out an hour later. But when the third inning started, the situation suddenly changed. In the third game, Eli won a hintle. In the fourth game, Eli won 50 silver tars. In the fifth game, Eli won 10 silver tars. 10 minutes later, Eli never lost a game again, as if the game he just lost was just an accident. How is this possible? Evans was already sweating, and he faintly felt that something was wrong. He glanced at the waiter, who also looked like he had seen a ghost at this time. They can know what the card is in a special way, and then they can play the card calmly, but this man in front of him seems to not only know the card, but also seems to be able to calculate what everyone will play, and then win step by step. But how is that possible? Can anyone really figure it all out in such a short time? Is that still human? Not even the best gambler in the casino can do it. The waiter took a deep breath and opened the cards again. This time, the bet was bigger, and Eli directly won 2 hinters from the dealer. Win again, ha 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 ha. Eli laughed out loud. As Eli won more and more times, other people began to gamble with Eli. At this time, they also won some money and showed a happy look. At this time, the waiter was a little reluctant to open the card. Open the cards. Eli said while looking at the trial. It is good. The waiter played again. Eli won 50 silver tars again. Open the cards. Eli said as usual. The waiter was already a little unsteady at this time, looking at Eli, as if a hungry wolf opened his hideous mouth, wanting to eat. It's over. Evans on the side was already sweating on his forehead. In just 10 minutes, Eli had won more than a dozen hinters. It was completely unimaginable to him. This also completely overturned his previous thoughts, where is this a fat sheep, this is clearly a terrifying giant wolf. Knowing that he couldn't go on like this, he raised his head and gestured to the waiter to continue, and then said to Eli, Sir, you play first, I'll go to the bathroom. Go, go. At this time, Eli seemed to be having a good time too, and dismissed him at will. Evans immediately walked out of the crowd, but it was not the bathroom, but the back of the casino. Eli shouted loudly, as usual, with a half-smile in the corners of his eyes. Play cards with wizards. I know where all the cards are, even how you are going to play next, can you beat me? Bang bang bang. Evans knocked on a door. Come in. A thick voice called. Evans opened the door and went in. In front of him was a large room. The room was smoky. A man with a scar on his face hugged a naked woman and was putting his hands up and down. Seeing Evans coming in, he seemed a little unhappy, but he also stopped. He knew something must have happened, otherwise he wouldn't come here. What happened? Asked the man leaning on the sofa. Boss, it's like this. Evans quickly told him about Eli. How much has he won? The scar-faced man asked directly. 20 hinters already. Evans moved his throat and gave a specific value. What? When the man heard the number, he pushed the woman aside and widened his eyes, as if he didn't expect so many. Although the casino is huge, they may only make a dozen hinters a day, and it also includes other expenses. In other words, if Eli takes it away, they will lose many days. And what's even scarier is that Eli is still playing. So, you send someone to watch him first, isn't he still riding in a carriage? You keep your eyes on that carriage. The scarred-faced man said solemnly, and then called 2 more people in, saying, Davy and Jones, you are knights, wait for him to go out later, you understand what to do. The two men who were called in were strong and nodded. After a while, they were tramps and accidentally stole Eli's money. Go back first and stabilize him. Then the man said to Evans again. Okay. Evans nodded. When Evans returned to the gaming table, there were already a bunch of Hintar and Yintar in front of Eli, and from the discussions of the people around, Eli won another dozen Hintars in just a few minutes. The waiter at this time was almost unsteady, and he looked at Eli as if he had seen the devil. Seeing Evans coming back, he calmed down a little, but his arms couldn't help shaking. Sure enough, Eli won again. At this time, Eli's body had gathered a bunch of people. They looked at Eli with frantic eyes, and every time they followed Eli, they had made a lot of money. Therefore, every time it is opened now, the casino is losing a lot. I'm going to the toilet. This time, Eli didn't ask for the cards as usual, but stood up. He put away Hintar and asked Evans, "Where is the toilet?" Evans was a little puzzled, pointed in one direction of the casino, and then Eli swaggered towards the casino toilet. Evans is a little unsure if Eli really wants to go to the toilet, but although the toilet here has windows, they are all bound with iron bars. It is impossible for ordinary people to break through the window and escape, even for intermediate knights. The iron rods were removed silently. Plus Eli still had 7 or 8 hintle chips on the table. So Evans just followed, waiting outside the toilet. 10 minutes passed. Eli still hasn't come out. Something's wrong. Evans felt something was wrong. Immediately called someone to come over and rushed into the toilet. But when they went in, they only saw the window that was originally closed by iron rods and iron sheets. At this time, a large hole appeared, and the iron rod was directly bent. As for Eli, he has long since disappeared. Ruined. Evans slumped to the ground, and then shouted behind him. Come on! Chapter 32. Come on! Evans' shrill voice sounded, and at the same time, David and Jones, who had been standing not far away, were stunned for a moment, and then acted immediately. One of them went out towards the door, while the other tried to get out directly through the hole in the toilet, but his body was too thick to get through, so he immediately pulled himself out and chased towards the door. You go over there, I'll go over here. The two ran out of the gate, and David pointed to one side of the casino and ran to the other. The toilet of the casino is located on the right side of the casino is outside, and the back is where the casino stops the carriage. There are people watching at all times, so Eli must be within this range. They only need to divide their troops and they will surely find him. Fortunately, the boss has just deployed people. David has blonde hair and a leather coat on his upper body, exposing his rock-hard body. As an intermediate knight, he is one of the strongest thugs of the casino owner. He was very fast and quickly entered the alley. The alleys here are very dark, and many are connected together, so he checked it carefully and did not dare to miss a point. So did Jones on the other side. As a low-level knight, his eyesight was enough for him to see the alley. Even if it's a mosquito, don't try to get out of my sight. Jones grinned, a businessman from outside, they wouldn't be too afraid. And it is definitely not a good businessman who can open the iron bars of the toilet in advance without knowing it. Yes, Jones thought that Eli must have teamed up inside and out, and then opened the iron bars in advance, and then this gave him a chance to escape. As for why the iron bars were like that, he couldn't think of it. Eli, where the heck are you? The two watched carefully, and in the process, people from other casinos also joined in. But after 10 minutes, David had already searched half, and the other half of Jones had also been collected. At the intersection on both sides, Davy and Jones looked at each other, silent. Behind the two, there were 7 or 8 casino staff, all of whom were ashen. Did not find. They've looked at every nook and cranny, but there's no sign at all. Ruined. One of them was directly paralyzed on the ground. Evans had no strength in his body, and he was even more desperate. For this reason, he still doesn't understand that Eli is not a fat sheep at all, but a hungry wolf in sheep's clothing, and a hungry wolf that specifically targets them. What's even more desperate is that he took the initiative to bring people in. Evans has been unable to imagine what will happen for a while. Oh, yes, and the carriage. Evans suddenly seemed to remember something, and his eyes lit up. Yes. Davy and Jones also felt a sense of suffocation, and everyone immediately ran towards the place where the carriage was placed. But when they arrived, when they saw the driver, the owner said with a puzzled look. The guest rented my carriage, and I am not his driver. Then do you know what his name is? David directly grabbed the coachman and asked with his eyes wide open. Sir, cough. The driver was lifted with one hand, feeling a little breathless. David, let go. Jones couldn't stand it any longer. People like you couldn't even say it. David also realized that he was a little too inappropriate. Let go. The driver fell to the ground, and stood up in fear for a few seconds, saying. He remembers that when he leased the horse, the name he gave was Harry Potter. Harry Potter. Davy and Jones couldn't help repeating this name, remembering the name. Go back and see the boss. Since they didn't find it, they could only go back and wait for the boss's punishment. What, you didn't catch him? In the room, the boss slapped the table angrily with an angry look on his face, and the hard table was slapped with a loud noise. Boss, this may be a gang crime. Jones whispered at this time. Oh. The boss raised his head. Boss, look, the rental car driver, and the iron fence that has been opened in advance, people who disappear quickly, this is definitely not something that can be done by one person, there is definitely a team. Jones analyzed. Although he is not as strong as David, being on an equal footing with David is one of them. It is indeed possible. The boss also nodded and closed his eyes. After 10 seconds, he opened his eyes again and said. How much did the casino lose this time? This needs to be inquired. Jones and the others have been here all the time. How did they know about this? And they quickly called in the person in charge outside. Boss, a total of about 80 hinters were lost, and the man named Harry Potter accounted for almost 1/3 of the total. In total, 35 hinters were taken away, 7 were left, and 2 were taken away. 18. So much. The boss widened his eyes, shocked by the number. He thought it was 30 or 40 at most. How come there are so many, and where did the other 2/3 go? The boss rubbed his head, feeling a little pain in his head. Boss, that guy at least starts with hintar every time. He has more or even all in, so there are only so many, and the rest are all the others who follow him to gamble and lose. The person in charge was a little too afraid to speak at this time. That's 80 kinters. I'm afraid they won't be able to earn it back in a few months. Boss, do you want to get the money back? David asked inappropriately at this time. Yes, I want a ghost, try it. If you want it today, our casino will be closed tomorrow. The boss listened to this suggestion with twitching lips. Most of those guests came with a certain identity, how could they come back? They can only eat this dumb loss. Check for me, I want you to find this Harry Potter man, I must catch him. The boss stood up at this time, his eyes fierce. Yes, boss. Jones nodded and walked out immediately. These things are not what they can do well, and they have to find professional people. Also, don't let out today's affairs. Then, the boss instructed the others. It's too embarrassing, if he says it out, I'm afraid it will make his casino lose face. Let's go. After instructing everyone, the boss dispersed everyone and sat alone on a chair. The strong figure like a hill looked shrunken. Harry Potter. In the room, the sound of the boss gnashing his teeth echoed. Meanwhile, where Davy and Jones had assembled before. In the dark corner. The moonlight shone, and a person stepped out of the darkness slowly, put on a hat on his head, and walked out of the alley. Witchcraft Dark Occult. Avoid a few people, then the person leaves Moon Lane. Chapter 33. Easier than expected. Back home, Eli hung his black clothes on a hanger, took off his hat, and walked over to the wine cabinet to pour himself a glass of wine. This time the operation was much smoother than Eli had imagined. The first was Evan's cooperation, which allowed him to get in touch with big customers smoothly, and then the laxness of the casino, which allowed him to leave easily, and finally, the help of the dark and hidden witchcraft to escape the search. Dark concealment, zero-ring witchcraft, let the wizard sneak into the dark shadow to achieve the effect of concealment. In the dark night, the effect is the best, and it is basically impossible to see with the naked eye. Of course, he actually had another option, which was to just kill Davy and Jones and walk away, but that was too bloody, and Eli didn't want to cause too much trouble. He is a law-abiding citizen of King's Landing. How could it be possible to do such a thing? Let's take stock of the harvest. Eli put down the wine glass and took out the purse. Inventory. There are a total of 29 hinters, 1 is own, other casinos have 1, and 465 silver tars, of which 400 are 1, and the rest are their own. So this time, I earned a total of 32 hinters, excluding the rental price of the clothes, the mortgage money, and the rental money of the carriage, and the total profit was about 31 hinters. As for why the mortgage of the clothes should be deducted, it is naturally impossible for him to return the clothes, which may cause unnecessary trouble. Get rich. For the first time, Eli felt the terrifying speed at which knowledge was turned into money. In one night, no, in about half an hour, he earned 31 hinters, the amount of money he could only earn for decades, which was terrifying. The experiment is long enough now. Eli walked to the window, in a happy mood. Lack of money has always been a big problem for him, but this time, it should be enough for him for a while. No, the experiment consumes more than I thought, maybe the money may not be enough. Suddenly, as if thinking of the previous experiment, Eli frowned. He doesn't know how long the experiment will last, but if it's like this, I'm afraid these 30 hinters won't be enough for a long time. Besides, he doesn't just need money for this experiment. Witchcraft research, some research experiments, the speed of money is not bad at all. He was in the wizarding beginnings, so he didn't really need it, but as he got deeper into the path, he understood the difficulty. Knowledge is always the cornerstone of wizards, but the acquisition of some knowledge is impossible without money. Maybe. While thinking, Eli looked out the window. It was night, but two areas were still brightly lit. One is Luying Street and the other is Moon Lane. But at this time, his eyes did not stop on Luying Lane, but looked at Moon Lane for a long time. Moon Lane is not only a casino in Mocha Casino. Since they have already made money, why not make a big one at a time, and then rest for a few years or more, and make it once, isn't it better? And Mocha Casino will definitely not tell what happened today, and the outside world will only know that someone has won a lot of money at Mocha Casino today. With Eli's understanding of the casino, it is absolutely impossible for them to tell this matter. So, the next 3 days, or a week, or even a month, should be a safe period. After thinking about this matter, Eli's eyes gradually lit up. Sorry, the king of gamblers Harry Potter is coming out again. Next month and a half. The various casinos in Moon Lane have experienced the most horrific looting since their inception, and every casino, big or small, has experienced the patronage of a man named Harry Potter. Every casino hates this man, especially the various casino owners. Because every time they know this name, it means that they have lost a lot of hintar, but they can't catch anyone at all. Even if they send high-level knights, they seem to be unable to catch up, like a devil. At first, these bosses also asked the casino people to keep this secret, but after a party, someone unexpectedly said the name, and many casino owners even knew it. After chatting, they realized that everyone had been robbed. Since then, among the underworld, there has been one more wanted led by 7 or 8 major casinos. 500 ginters the heads of Harry Potter. Even if it is to provide information, there are 10 hintars news. For a time, I don't know how many homeless people in King's Landing City, the gangsters are crazy, but when they are about to search, they find that the casino doesn't even know what he looks like. There are several casino people who have provided portraits, but each one is different, and that Harry Potter is obviously disguised, and there is no way to find it. This frenzy lasted a full month before finally stopping. Some people hate nature and some people love it. Those in high places hate him and those in low places love him. It was also during this time period that a word came out. If you meet Harry Potter, be sure to believe him because he is a god. As long as he doesn't want to lose, he can't lose. If you meet Harry Potter, as long as you insist on investing with him, you will definitely make a lot of money. If you are bold, you can even achieve financial freedom. Although these people are only a minority, the bottom people are bragging about the majority, and many people claim that they have met Harry Potter and made a lot of money. Through their publicity, Harry Potter's fame spread widely. Some call him the Devil's Hand, the King of 1,000 Kings, others the Magic Hand, the Casino Buster, but the most famous of them is the Gold-Swallowing Devil. For a time, the fame of the gold-swallowing demon Harry Potter spread rapidly. I don't know how many gamblers have become idols. They also all long for one day, like Harry Potter, to be able to roam the casino, and then leave gracefully. The Devil Who Swallows Gold. Eli looked at the newspaper with a smile, but he didn't expect the newspaper to write about this matter, and print it out. It has been more than half a month since he left the last casino. Thanks to the good face behavior of various casinos, he was able to make him so unscrupulous, sweeping many casinos in just half a month, swept away a lot of gold coins. His current amount of gold coins has accumulated to 300 hinters. I originally wanted to help me earn some money for experimental materials, but now I'm afraid many years will be enough. Eli was also very emotional, as if he had discovered a new world all at once. He put down the newspaper, put on his usual work clothes, and got ready to go to work. The casino incident is just a small disturbance, and it's time to return to normal life. After arranging his face, Eli opened the door and walked out. Go in the direction of the library. Mixed in the crowd, just like an ordinary person. Chapter 34. Eli. Soon Eli came to the library, and it happened that Herman had just arrived, but at this time he had an unconcealed smile on his face, and he didn't know what beautiful things had happened. The two walked towards the second floor together. Eli didn't ask, because he knew that Herman would definitely not be able to say it. Sure enough, after a few seconds, Herman, who was next to Eli, saw that Eli did not respond, so he took the initiative to lean forward and said, "Eli, I am so happy today." "Oh." Eli nodded and continued walking. Seeing Eli ignoring him, Herman felt a little uncomfortable, as if he was constipated, but after a few seconds he couldn't help but lean forward and said, "Eli, do you remember when I said I was cheated?" "Remember? Why, you went to gamble again, aren't you afraid that the teacher will kill you?" Eli turned his head at this time and looked at Herman suspiciously. With this kid's IQ, he can do anything. "How is that possible? Didn't I tell you before that I was dragged by someone else?" Herman was busy denying it, then leaned into Eli's ear and whispered, "That person is dead." Eli wondered. "Yes, it seems that he was beaten to death by someone in the casino, tisk tisk tisk, although it is really pitiful, but I am really happy." Herman sighed, and then added, "He cheated me of money, but lost it. Life, I am not at a loss for this wave." "What kind of self-comforting awe?" "His name is Evans," Herman said suddenly as the two walked. "Evans?" Hearing this familiar name, Eli was stunned. Wasn't this the guy who led him to be deceived that day? "Oh, by the way, there is that casino, which seems to be not very profitable recently. It also closed a few days ago. Mocha Casino is also closed." Eli admitted that he did make some money there, and he went there a few times later, just to make a small profit, but it went out of business. He still underestimated the ability of these casinos to withstand pressure. But it is not necessarily. Maybe other casinos want to annex it. Originally, Mocha Casino is not a big casino, it can only be said to be a medium-sized casino. I heard that it was done by an outsider, but it's a pity he's here, otherwise I'll knock him a few on the spot," Herman said with a smile. Eli smiled and said nothing. Soon, the two began to work after visiting Maester Lemon. After the casino thing is over, Eli's life has also returned to 2 points and 1 line, wandering between home and the library, and occasionally going to the base in the valley outside the city to conduct some experiments. During the period, there was no news from the Earl of Gremory, and Eli was also happy. With sufficient funds, Eli also purchased a large amount of materials from Roland to conduct experiments. Of course, in order to avoid Roland's suspicion, he also used witchcraft to blur Roland's memory so that it would not be leaked. After all, trust is trust, but the caution should not be lost. Anyway, to the outside world, he is a scholar and has no fighting ability. He can improve his status and social circle without any scruples, but he will never reveal his strength. The former will only make everyone feel that the Empire has a good scholar, and the high-ranking people will not care too much, and even make him safer. But the latter may frighten some people. And only when his social circle is improved can he get more resources. Go is for development, definitely not for go. The 136th experiment failed. In the laboratory, Eli quietly discarded the experimental waste again. Although he failed, he was not discouraged, because as time passed, he felt that he was getting closer and closer to completing the first stage. The experiment has been going on for a month, and every time it fails. No hurry. Eli took out a new material from the side and continued to start the experiment. For a time, the bright basement fell silent again, only the sound of Eli operating the instrument sounded. The 137th experiment failed. The 138th experiment failed. The 201st experiment failed. The 301st experiment successful. 3 months later, finally, Eli's first phase was a success. Eli looked at the roughly prepared potion in front of him, and there was actually a faint fluctuation that was close to spiritual power. He felt a little excited, and finally found the experimental material that was replaced in the original formula. The next step is to adjust the analogy of these materials, and then finally formulate the potion. At that time, my mental power will grow rapidly, maybe it won't take that long. Eli was also a little happy. His mental power should currently be around 6.3, increasing at a rate of about 0.5 per year, which takes 7.48 years. If it can be deployed, it will greatly shorten this time. Although he doesn't care much about time, this promotion can make him less worried. Once he is promoted to the second-class apprentice, his combat power will increase again, and he is not quite sure about the Great Knight, but under the Great Knight, he will definitely be hanged casually, and his survivability will also increase. At that time, even if it is really exposed, there is no need to have so many concerns, the big deal is to run away. The next step is the second stage, the specific and refined replacement. Eli took a deep breath and prepared to continue the experiment. But when he went to get the materials, he found that he didn't know when. The original experimental materials had all been used up, and there was nothing left. Looks like I have to go to Roland again. Now that he had no materials, Eli could only do other work. As for continuing the experiment, we have to wait for a new batch of materials to arrive. Is the purple iris gone? In the familiar room, Eli looked puzzled. Yes. Roland nodded and said helplessly, there are other materials you want, and I can collect them for you, but this purple iris is really not good now. Why? Eli was still a little confused. He came over today to find Roland to order the materials, but was told that the purple irises in the materials were not available. But the purple iris is the most important material in the potion, and it is completely irreplaceable. If there is no such thing, his potion experiment can be declared bankrupt directly. That's it, purple irises are only found in Lock Manor outside the city. And it seems to be a unique plant here. It was transplanted from a faraway place. A few days ago, Lock Manor suddenly stopped selling together, it seems that they are not going to sell again. Roland explained. This. Eli gasped. This, his experiment can't continue? I really can't help it. Oh, by the way, that manor belongs to the Marquis family, Elena family. Don't you know the Earl of Gremory? He seems to be familiar with the Elena family, maybe you can find his help. Roland gave a suggestion. Elena family. When Roland said this, Eli remembered the dance more than half a year ago. Isn't that Alex from the Elena family? It's a pity that he has no channel to contact him at all, and the two are not familiar with each other. On the contrary, the Earl of Gremory should be more familiar with him, and maybe he can really get help from him. I'm sorry, I didn't help you. Roland said apologetically. It doesn't matter, I'm already happy that you can help me find others. Eli smiled, he had no reason to blame Roland. Then I'll go first. Since there was no material, Eli didn't plan to stay for long. He greeted Roland and left. On the way home, Eli also had mixed feelings. It's a bit frustrating that a good experiment is at risk of dying. I can only ask the Earl of Gremory. Eli pondered, and soon returned home. When I entered the yard, I found a letter in the mailbox at the door. Eli opened it, and it happened that it happened to the Earl of Gremory. The letter told him that the rest of the horses had already arrived at the racecourse and hoped he would come over. Chapter 35. The horses are here, and I can take this opportunity to meet the Earl of Gremory. Eli took the letter, and the world informed others that in addition to shaking people directly, it was through the letter. The Earl of Gremory stays at Moor Manor for a few days every month. If Eli remembers correctly, the Earl should be in the manor tomorrow, so Eli only needs to go tomorrow, and he should be able to see the Earl. It can only be said that this melee is very timely. I hope the Earl can help me. Eli shook his head and walked into the room. If relying on the Earl really doesn't work, then he may have to rely on other channels, but it will be very troublesome and there may be unknown risks, so he would rather give up. The worst result is just to rely on time to grind slowly. Take the initiative in him. The next day, Eli rented a carriage and set off towards Moor Manor. After a while, Eli rushed to the manor, and was led by the manor's maid in the direction of the horse farm. The last time his process was like this, he was led to the horse farm by the maid, then got his money, and was finally sent back by the manor. City. It's better to finish the horse training first. The Earl has been at the manor today, so Eli is not in a hurry, and plans to wait until everything is over before going to see the Earl. Soon, he came to the horse farm. It seems that the rest of the horses have been sent here today, a total of 30 horses. The horses were brought out in batches by the staff at the ranch and then tamed by Eli. During this process, the horse trainers at the horse farm also stared intently at Eli's movements, as if they wanted to learn something, but unfortunately, they couldn't even understand how Eli trained horses. Born horse trainers. Seeing a horse being tamed, all the trainers were once again convinced by Eli. It was around 8 o'clock in the morning when Eli arrived. By 10 o'clock, Eli's task had been completed. Although there are a lot of horses, Eli is very efficient. It doesn't take long for a single horse. This is specially extended by Eli. Otherwise, he can be tamed directly and in a wide range, but that would be too shocking. These are 3 hinters. As usual, the maid handed the gold coins to Eli, and was about to send Eli off, but this time she was called down and said, "I want to see Lord Count." "Does Mr. Eli want to see Lord Earl?" "Lord Earl is indeed in the manor at this time, but I need to report to the housekeeper first, and then convey it to Lord Earl, okay?" The maid was also a little surprised when she heard it, and said after a moment of hesitation, "Of course." Eli nodded. Then the maid took Eli to the castle, and then left Eli outside the castle, and then went in alone to report. Soon, the maid came out, looked at Eli and said, "The Count is upstairs, but he may not be able to see you, but the butler is also there. You can go in and chat with the butler." "Can't see him? Did something happen?" Eli nodded, then followed the maid into the castle. In the living room, Eli saw the housekeeper, an old man with black hair with silver threads, a lot of wrinkles on his face, but bright eyes and a straight body. "Mr. Eli, I'm sorry, Lord Earl is very troubled by something today and may not be able to see you." The butler saw Eli coming in and came over and apologized. "Butler Helen, what happened? Maybe I can provide some help." He knew the Earl's butler, so he asked politely. "It's true that something happened, but you may not be able to help." The housekeeper shook his head and sighed. "You haven't said it yet, how do you know I can't be of any help?" Eli smiled. "Okay, since you want to know, then I'll tell you, but you can't tell me about it." The housekeeper was also familiar with Eli, and shook his head and talked about the Earl's troubles. It turned out to be affected by the above. The Earl of Gremory is a great knight, and he became a noble by virtue of his merits. After becoming a nobleman, the Earl of Gremory also began to invest in business to earn a lot of money in order to make more money. As his business got bigger, it naturally needed a bigger background. Behind the Gremory family is the Elena family. But a few days ago, Marquis Elena was suddenly poisoned and fell into a coma. The entire Marquis family fell into chaos. Naturally, the Gremory family, who was backed by the Marquis, was also greatly affected. Very bad. The Marquis is poisoned. Eli seemed to understand a lot at once. No wonder Lock Manor stopped selling purple irises. It turned out that the Marquis was poisoned. Then when the Marquis dies and the new Marquis takes over, the purple irises should be resold. Eli's heart was relieved. As for whether the Marquis dies or not, it has nothing to do with him. But then the housekeeper's words directly lifted Eli's emotions again. He sighed, "I heard that the Marquis was poisoned while visiting Lock Manor, and I don't know what's in the manor. I heard that Lock Manor has stopped running. It's a pity the crops inside are gone." Eli's eyes widened. It could be related. If it really stops running, won't the purple iris be completely gone in the future? Eli pondered, feeling that he could do something. The housekeeper is also very melancholy. The Earl is closely related to him. If the interests of the Gremory family are damaged, then he will definitely be affected. But what can he do? "Maybe, I can offer some help." The butler looked up and saw Eli rode in front of him. "Hey!" In the study, Count Gremory was sitting on a chair, and in front of his eyes were various problems that the family had encountered recently. Since the Marquis was poisoned, the family's business has been affected one after another. He was bad, but there was nothing he could do. Now I don't know how many famous doctors of the empire, people from the monastery gathered at the Marquis's house, all trying to detoxify, but there was no major progress, just maintaining the highly poisonous from spreading. At first, he also wanted to find a help to detoxify. If he succeeded, then he would have a higher status in front of the Marquis, but after looking around, he couldn't find it at all. After all, the best doctors in the empire are either in the monastery or in the palace. Maybe I should give up part of the business. Gremory pondered, if the Marquis really died, then he would have to think about what happened next. The eldest son of the Marquis family, Alex, may not have the ability to control the big family. Maybe there will be a Marquis in charge of it at that time, but he and the Marquis don't know much about it. It's better to shrink the business first. Count Gremory sat down and thought. At the same time, there was a sudden knock on the door. Come in. The Earl was a little puzzled. Didn't he ask the butler to keep the others out? The door opened, the housekeeper walked in, looked at the Earl and said, Lord Earl, someone wants to see you. The Earl of Gremory looked over. At this time, Eli happened to come in, looking at the Earl, and said with a smile. Lord Count, I heard that you have encountered some trouble recently. Maybe, I can offer some help. Chapter 36. Can you help? In the study, Count Gremory looked at Eli and asked a question. Yes, if Lord Marquis is poisoned, I think I can provide some help. Eli, who was sitting on the sofa, nodded. Just now, the butler left after reporting. At this time, only Eli and the Earl were in the room. How can you help? Count Gremory looked at Eli. What he knows about Eli is that he is very good at training horses, but detoxification, he has never heard that Bachelor Lemon is also good at pharmacy. Doesn't he mainly study history? Lord Count, last year, I happened to pass by a market, where I met an old man in a black robe. He was selling all kinds of strange things, including antidote. At that time, I was studying botany. Then I bought 2 copies, Eli explained. I didn't care about the antidote at first, but when I went out with my senior Herman, he was bitten by a highly venomous snake, and I also panicked. But at the time, I didn't know what was going on. I actually took the bottle of medicine and gave it to my senior. He soon woke up and recovered, and there were no sequelae. Eli started to make things up. As for whether Herman was bitten by a snake, no one should care. Oh, so you mean that you think your medicine can detoxify the Marquis? The Earl is not a fool, so he naturally understands what Eli means. Yes. Eli nodded. Eli, you're still too young, this poisoning is not that simple. If it was really simple poisoning, the Marquis should have been brought back long ago. The Earl shook his head and stood up. He believed that Eli had good intentions, but good intentions could not detoxify. How could there be such a panacea? But he still couldn't bear to hurt Eli's kindness. He waved his hand and said, That's it, I'll have someone go to you in the afternoon to get the medicine, I'll take a look. Okay. Eli nodded. Then what are you doing? Asked the Count of Gremory suddenly. He was a little curious, he didn't believe that Eli would do such a thing for no reason, this should be a very measured young man. Lord Earl, I'm studying pharmacology recently and I need a lot of purple irises, but because of the poisoning of the Marquis, I heard that Lock Manor has stopped running. Eli said directly without hiding. Understood. The Count nodded, which made more sense. Then go back first, I'll send someone to get the medicine in the afternoon. Okay, then I won't bother. Eli touched his chest with his right hand and turned to leave. Oh, by the way, Lord Count, if it really works, please don't tell me that the medicine was provided by me. It seemed that he had remembered something, and before taking 2 steps, Eli turned around and said. No problem, I promise you. Count Gremory smiled. Although he knew it would be useless, he saw Eli's attitude to help him. If there was a chance, he would even want Eli to become his advisor and scholar, of course, after Eli became a scholar. Eli, who received the Earl's reply, did not hesitate this time and left directly. On the way back, Eli sat in the carriage, thinking about what happened this time. He must not be able to participate directly. After all, no one knows whether other people are involved in the poisoning of the Marquis. Maybe other major forces did it. If he got involved, he might get into trouble. If the Marquis was rescued with the help of the Earl's hand, it would be equivalent to directly transferring the contradiction. And as long as the Marquis doesn't say it, I'm afraid no one will think that Eli did it. After all, he is just an ordinary scholar, and who would think that he helped? And if the help is really successful, with what he knows about the Count, he believes that the Count will definitely solve his needs, and there is no need to think about it. He only needs to provide the potion that can detoxify. As for why Eli is so confident, there is naturally a reason. Eli had already learned from Roland that this Marquis was not a knight, but an ordinary person. He was poisoned and fell into a coma. He has not died for 3 days. Coincidentally, in Saren's notes, there is a potion called Basic Antidote. By extracting some extraordinary elements, matching some materials, and configuring, you can get a potion that can completely remove non-extraordinary toxins and relieve ordinary extraordinary toxins. This is also Eli's confidence in potions. The principle of this potion is to remove foreign objects in the body, so no matter what type of poison it is, as long as it enters the body and is below the extraordinary level, it can definitely be removed. No matter what kind of poison you are, whether it is mixed poison or not, as long as you are not extraordinary, you cannot resist the power of the potion. And he just needs to sit in the back and watch things develop. Afternoon. Gremory also sent someone to get the medicine as promised. Eli continued his experiments. He has recently been a little interested in alchemy, and he has begun to learn this genre that he does not know very well. The main reason is that he has enough money so that he can do the experiments he wants to do. As for the news from the Earl, Eli didn't know what was going on. After all, his work on horse training was over, and the Earl was an Earl after all and was very busy. Night. A castle in the Gremory territory, in a luxurious room. Count Gremory holds a potion bottle in his hand. The shape of the medicine bottle is like a test tube, and the inside is a blue-purple liquid. If you look closely, you can still feel a little golden bright spot in the medicine. Is this a potion? The Count fell silent as he looked at the bottle of potion. Could this fancy potion really save the Marquis' life? Hey! Let's not! Count Gremory shook his head and put the potion on the table. Time flies to the next day. Early in the morning, the Earl of Gremory had just woken up when the butler suddenly came. Lord Earl, Marquis Elena's situation is suddenly very dangerous. The people of the Imperial Monastery are already trying to treat them, but there is still no progress. Go. Let's go. Count Gremory shook his head. Oh, by the way, take a look at the doctor I found earlier. Naturally, he didn't do anything in the past few days, and he also found several famous doctors. Pack up the carriage, we'll go in a while. This matter involved his backer, and Count Gremory didn't dare to delay too much. Okay, Lord Count. The butler quickly went out. 20 minutes later, a carriage was already waiting outside the castle, and 2 physicians were also waiting. Apparently they were here before, ready to leave. The Count, also wearing gorgeous clothes, appeared from the entrance of the castle, and then walked towards the carriage, while the butler stood by, preparing to watch the Count. Count Gremory stepped forward quickly. As a great knight, he was very fast. In the blink of an eye, he came to the front of the carriage, stepped on the carriage stool, and was ready to get on the carriage. But just as he was about to enter the carriage, he suddenly remembered Eli's confident words yesterday, hesitated for a moment, turned to the housekeeper and said, "Helen, go get the potion bottle on the table in my study." "Okay, sir." Soon, the butler took the potion, and the Count glanced at it and put it in his pocket. Although it is probably useless, but what if? In case it really works. Chapter 37. When the Count entered the carriage, the driver twitched his whip and the carriage began to move. Soon, the carriage passed through this area and entered the urban area. When the citizens saw that it was the Earl's carriage, they all gave way. In the carriage, the Count of Gremory sat on the master's seat, with 2 doctors sitting on one side. The car was very quiet, and no one made a sound. Suddenly, the Count coughed, looked to the side, and asked, "2 doctors, do you think it's just a potion that can cure the Marquis poison?" The 2 doctors were both in their 40s, but they didn't have much hair on their heads. One of them was stunned when he heard the Count's question, but still replied, "It's unlikely. It seems that the poison in the Earl has not been found out yet, but it should be mixed poison, and it is unlikely to solve it with a bottle of medicine. Indeed, if it was really that simple, the Marquis wouldn't be in a coma right now." The other person nodded in agreement. "That's it." The Count nodded without saying a word. Stretching his right hand into his clothes, he could still feel the hard and cold touch of the medicine bottle. King's Landing is not too big, but not too small. The territory of the Elena family is located on the west side of King's Landing, about a few kilometers away from King's Landing. In just 20 minutes, the carriage had passed through the city, left the city, and reached its destination. After arriving at the destination, Count Gremory got off the carriage, and a middle-aged man in black came up and saluted, "Long time no see, Count." He glanced at the Earl, then glanced at the two doctors behind the Earl, with a clear expression, and said, "Lord Earl, are you here to help Lord Marquis too?" "Also?" Count Gremory asked. "Are there many people?" Soon, he knew that his guess was correct. The man didn't speak either, and then walked in with the Earl of Gremory, and soon came to a huge living room, with a room connected to one side of the living room. At this time, the living room was already overcrowded. Count Gremory roughly estimated that there were dozens of people. Among them, barons and viscounts are everywhere, and there are even many earls. Of course, there are many kinds of doctors, some of which are brought by nobles, and the other are from imperial monasteries. The nobles stood apart on one side, and the convent was on the other side, led by a woman in a white robe. This person the Earl of Gremory still knew. It was the woman who was looking for him to invest with Maester Lemon last time. The elegant student also followed behind. "How's the situation?" After bringing the Earl, the butler left immediately. The Earl of Gremory walked over and saw a familiar viscount. "Lord Earl." The viscount said respectfully when he saw it was him, and then began to explain the current situation. Since the Marquis was poisoned and comatose, the Marquis family first asked their own doctors to help, but it was ineffective, so they asked the monastery for help, and the state of the Marquis was successfully stabilized. But that's all, they want to detoxify, but there's been no way. Then yesterday, the situation of the Marquis suddenly took a turn for the worse, so a lot of nobles who introduced themselves suddenly came in, and the Elena family did not stop it. They also hoped that the strength of everyone could save the Marquis. "Yo, isn't this the Earl of Gremory?" Count Gremory listened to the Viscount's report when suddenly, a voice sounded. He looked sideways, and a man in gorgeous black clothes walked towards him, followed by an old man with a white beard. "Count of Monkey." Earl of Gremory frowned. Earl Monkey and he are basically the subordinates of the Marquis, but the two are very incompatible. Both of them want to win the support of the Marquis, but they have always been evenly matched. "Hey, it looks like you are here to help too." Earl Monkey glanced at the two behind Earl Gremory and laughed. "Humph, that's not up to you." Count Gremory was also polite and gave him a look. "Hey, then you will lose this time." Earl Monkey smiled, then invited the old man behind him and said, "This is Dr. Rob, you may not have heard his name, but he used to be the chief physician in the palace, many doctors are his students now. I see that the two doctors you brought are so young, they may not be able to solve it. This is showing off." The corner of Count Gremory's mouth twitched, his business was far from this direction, and finding these two was the result of his efforts for several days. "Teacher." What caught him even more by surprise happened. As Dr. Rob came out, the two doctors behind him came out and saluted the old man. Both of them turned out to be former students of Rob. "Ha ha ha ha." Even Earl Monkey didn't expect this scene and laughed. "The Marquis poison is very complicated, and it's not something you can handle." Rob is already very old, but his tone is still full of confidence. "Teacher, we were invited by the Earl of Gremory." The two of them did not expect to meet their former teacher here, but they still stood by the Earl. "Well." Rob nodded and said nothing. "He has more students, and these two are just above average." "Tisk tisk tisk, Earl of Gremory, it seems that you have no chance this time." Earl of Monkey patted Earl of Gremory on the shoulder, and then left. The Count of Gremory took a few deep breaths and told himself that this was the home of the Marquis and that force could not be used. What the heck, he was so angry that he couldn't refute it yet. Squeak! At the same time, the door connecting the living room suddenly opened, and several doctors happened to come out. Count Gremory looked over, and through the door, he could see a room behind the door. There was a large bed in the room, and Marquis Elena was lying on the bed, surrounded by several immediate family members. "No." The doctor who came out walked up to an earl and shook his head. They were brought by the earl and wanted to help, but there seemed to be no progress. "Is there anyone else who can do it?" At this time, someone came out of the door. Alex sighed as he looked at the large number of nobles and people in the monastery in front of him. There are so many, but who is useful? Let's try again. At this time, the old woman headed by the monastery stood up, followed by a few people behind her. "Okay." Alex knew that the monasteries had been researching for a few days and hoped they could help. The monastery entered the room, and Alex ordered the door to be closed. Others wait. After half an hour, The people from the monastery came out again, looking depressed. Anyone else want to try? Alex's tone was even lower. I'll come. Earl Monkey raised his hand. This is the former chief physician of the palace, Dr. Rob. He introduced to Alex. Hello, Dr. Rob. Alex's eyes lit up, and he invited the doctor and the count inside, and the door closed again. After an hour, the door opened, and Dr. Rob came out frowning, followed by Munch, silent, apparently not finding a way. Not at all. The poison on the Marquis's body, at least 10 kinds of mixed poison, have penetrated into the internal organs, there is no way. Rob shook his head and said. Ah, can't Dr. Rob solve it? Rob is equivalent to a big name in the doctor's circle, and many doctors know him. I can't. Rob didn't deny it, just said he couldn't. But as soon as these words came out, it was like a bolt from the blue to other doctors. Rob was the former chief physician of the palace, he said no, it seems that the Marquis is really hopeless. For a while, there was a groan in the room. Anyone else want to try? Alex was also a little desperate at this time, but his biological father was lying inside. Oh, by the way, Count Gremory, do you want to try? At this time, the Earl of Munch, who was not far away, suddenly made a sound, as if he wanted to vent his frustration. Cough cough, forget it, So many people have failed, and the Marquis has been given an ultimatum by Rob, and the Earl of Gremory is also ready to give up. Try it. Suddenly, Alex said with sad eyes. For him, try, there is still a little bit of hope, he is like a drowning person who is as unwilling to let go as he grabs the seaweed in the sea. Count Gremory looked at the sad Alex in front of him, remembered the medicine Eli gave him, hesitated, and agreed, okay. Let me try. Come all come. It's not just him anyway. Chapter 38. Let's go. Alex didn't care about the etiquette of the nobles at this time, turned around and walked inside. Count Gremory glanced at the 2 doctors behind him, then the 3 entered the room together, and the door closed again. Whoa, whoa, whoa. As soon as you enter the room, the first is the pungent herbal smell from Marquis Elena on the bed. The Marquis was lying on the bed with his eyes closed, his hair was brown, and his face was wrinkled by the years, but even so, he could feel a faint majesty. But the situation for the Marquis looked very bad at this time. The bluish veins on the arms were bluish-purple, even the lips were dark black, and around the bed were the family members of the Marquis. Some were crying at the foot of the bed with sadness, others were standing by, watching everything, and there was an expression of undisguised excitement on their faces that made Gremory wonder if the same would be true when he died. On the other side, the 2 doctors brought by the Earl of Gremory have gone up to check. They gently lifted the Marquis's eyelids, and they could see that the Marquis's eyes had no gods, and then the 2 discussed it, and then began to try to heal. Half an hour. The Earl of Gremory watched the 2 busy themselves, and they also experimented with the Earl's blood sample, but it didn't work at all. Alex watched all this and closed his eyes. He had seen the same steps many times, but it didn't work at all. He suddenly felt that it shouldn't go on like this. Forget it. In the quiet room, Alex spoke. The 2 doctors stopped and looked at each other a little helplessly. After testing, the poison in the Marquis body was very tenacious and could not be removed. It would be fine if the Marquis was a knight, but unfortunately he is just an ordinary person. I'm sorry, Lord Count. The 2 walked towards Count Gremory, bowing their heads. I'll send you off. Alex muttered. The Count of Gremory hesitated. His hand reached into his pocket, and he seemed to hesitate to take out the bottle of medicine, because he didn't know whether it was really useful. I still have a bottle of potion here. I got it by accident last year, and it may be able to detoxify. Count Gremory finally took out the potion. Alex looked at the blue-purple liquid in the potion bottle held by the Count and was silent. Others also looked at the potion, showing a strange look. How could this potion really detoxify? Try it. Count Gremory also knew that this was really outrageous, but he still said this sentence in a mysterious way. Okay, try. Alex hesitated and nodded. The last time, just the last time. 2 doctors took blood samples. At this time, the blood was abnormally black. The Count opened the medicine and lowered it a little. Tick-tock. Just 1 drop, the blue-purple medicine entered the red-black blood. Change is sudden. The blood turned red, and a layer of black material appeared on the blood. My God! Alex's eyes widened. Others also had expressions of disbelief. Alex took a few steps forward, took the blood, and put it in front of his eyes. It was a healthy red color, which made him feel a little trembling all over his body. Quick, give it to father. Of course, taking it can't be so sloppy. After the medicine has been tested and it is determined that it is harmless to the human body, it is only given to the Marquis. Everyone looked at the Marquis and seemed to want to see something change. Puff! A mouthful of dark black blood slowly flowed out of the Marquis's mouth, and the Marquis's body began to tremble with fingers and then limbs. Following the flow of blood, the Marquis opened his eyes slowly. Everyone witnessed all this and dared not speak up. When the Marquis made a sound, Alex was the first to cheer. Meanwhile, outside the room, Earl Munch was chatting with several other earls. I told you, the Marquis probably won't be able to survive, we have to prepare. Indeed, the monastery and Dr. Rob can't do anything. It seems that there is no help. An earl nodded. Teacher, let's go, said the elegant young man behind the monastery woman. The woman headed by the monastery nodded. With their failure this time, they had completely lost hope of saving the Marquis, and after discussing it, they were also ready to leave. But when they hadn't walked out the door, suddenly, there was a loud noise behind them. The Marquis door opened, and a man ran out, shouting, "The Marquis is awake! The Marquis is awake!" Everyone was stunned. The noisy conference room fell into silence in an instant. After a few seconds, it returned to normal. Earl Munch stood there, as if he couldn't believe this fact. How could this be possible? How could the Earl of Gremory solve such a terrible and poisonous thing? And Rob, who was confident before, also frowned and expressed his doubts in life. Are my two students so good? The monastery also stopped. I want to know the specific news. How can such a complex poison be cured? Really do not know how to deal with the relationship between each toxicity. For a time, everyone in the entire room, from the count to the doctor, had their own thoughts and questions. No one knows whether the Marquis is really good, and how. The next day, Eli gets news that Elena Marquis has recovered. It looks like the purple irises have fallen. Eli smiled and continued to experiment. In the next half-month, King's Landing was surging. The news of the Marquis waking up had a bigger impact than Eli imagined. Such a violent poison could not be natural. After the Marquis's thunderous surge, it was an Earl's family who got the poison. They secretly mixed it into the Marquis food. Mixed with poison. This matter has a great impact. Not only is an Earl's family removed directly, but also, why would an Earl dare to poison the Marquis? And considering that the Elena family is still the family that controls the important iron ore of the Empire, the truth behind this, thinking about it, makes people feel full of scalp. This also made Eli even more fortunate that he was not directly involved in this matter. He is just an ordinary librarian. During this period of time, the Count did not ask Eli about the purple irises, and Eli was not in a hurry. The Count sent him a letter, telling him that he would come to him when the storm passed. In the blink of an eye, another month passed. The Earl of Gremory did find him, but instead of bringing the purple irises that Eli wanted, he brought another message. Marquis Elena wants to see him. Chapter 39. Sitting on the carriage heading for the Elena family, Eli looked at Count Gremory with a resentful expression. The Earl of Gremory was also a little embarrassed. After all, he and Eli agreed, so he could only apologize. This matter is indeed my fault, but don't worry, I only told the Marquis, and the Marquis asked that, so I can't do anything about it. Count Gremory spread his hands. Don't worry, you are very safe. Thanks to you saving the Marquis and catching the Earl, after reporting to the King, the Earl's family was immediately removed, and I heard that it was related to something bigger, and I don't know how many people were arrested. No kidding, this time period should be the safest time in Imperial King's Landing. A small bottle of potion, but I don't know how many people died, I don't know how many people's plan fell through. Don't worry, in order to protect you, it is also a secret to see the Marquis this time. The benefits are definitely indispensable, so don't worry. Eli nodded and didn't say anything. After all, everything had already happened, and the advantages obviously outweighed the disadvantages. The only bad thing was that he was exposed. However, this also reminds Eli that he must learn some curse-type witchcraft or spiritual witchcraft when his level is enough in the future to ensure that his identity is not revealed. Gremory was very chatty along the way, and it was obvious that he was very happy. After asking, I learned that it was because of the medicine that Earl Gremory became the most respected earl under the Marquis. With the strong support of the Marquis, the power of the family was expanded again. As for the Earl of Munch, it was temporarily refrigerated. I am afraid that the Earl of Monkey would never have thought that he made so many preparations, but was unexpectedly defeated by the Earl of Gremory. What is even more sad is that the Earl of Gremory claimed that the Marquis was treated by 2 pharmacists, which made loyal Uncle Beau suddenly became depressed and announced that he would never do anything again. As for the monastery, I heard that a lot of poison-related courses have been added, and the students burst into tears. Poor medical student. The carriage was fast, but instead of going the same way, it entered through the back door. Eli and the others were guided all the way, and finally Eli met Marquis Elena in a room. At this time, Marquis Elena's condition is much better, but the white hair on his head has increased a lot, but fortunately, he looks very energetic and his eyes are bright. It is unimaginable that a month ago, the Marquis almost died of poisoning. Lord Marquis, I have brought someone, then I will leave first. After delivering Eli, Gremory turned and left the room, leaving the 2 of them a private space. Eli is not worried, after all, he is only a few meters away from the Marquis. If something really happens, this distance is enough for him to kill the Marquis or kidnap the Marquis. But that may be less than 1,000th, after all, no one will lose a Marquis for him, he is just an ordinary librarian. The Marquis looked at Eli with a smile. Maybe he never thought of it. In just a few seconds, Eli had even figured out how to kidnap him and escape. Ahem, this time I'm specifically arranging Count Gremory for 2 things. One is about the potion I drank, and the other is the reward I gave you. Marquis Elena said. Is it really medicine? Eli was a little helpless, it seemed that the Marquis was very interested in medicine. I want to ask, do you remember the person you bought the potion from? Can you describe it to me? Count Elena looked at Eli with a warm gaze. Don't ask the medicine to ask the person, what's the truth, but that person was just made up by me. That person, wearing a black robe, with bright eyes, looks very old, and has a lot of wrinkles on his face. Eli began to make up things in a serious manner. The Marquis listened very seriously, nodding his head constantly. Eli didn't understand why the Marquis would be so interested in a person. Count, it's convenient to ask, why are you so interested in that person? After describing a popular face, Eli asked with a puzzled look. Marquis Elena shook his head, hesitated, and said, I suspect that the bottle of potion you bought is not simple. It's a real secret, but you saved me, and I can tell you. Do you know when the empire was established? Of course, the establishment of the empire should have been 300 years ago. Eli nodded, he naturally knew these things very well. Then do you know the name of the first king of the empire? Marquis Elena asked again. The name of the first king, Merlin the name is. Suddenly, Eli realized that he didn't know the king's name at all, and he didn't know the king's name in his memory at all. It was not in the book at all. Recorded. I don't know. Marquis Elena smiled, seeming to be happy to have stumped the scholar Eli. Eli nodded. Judging from the Marquis's words, he felt that what he was about to hear might be a big secret. Then you know what? Eli asked. The Marquis's tone was stagnant, he touched his beard, smiled awkwardly, and said, I don't know either. Well, then you spend half a day playing riddles here. The Marquis may also feel embarrassed, and continued, but I am certain that this king came from other places, and it is not simple, he has established such a large country in just 10 years, and as far as I know, every one of his subordinates is incredibly loyal, which is outrageous. Maybe he said a lot. The Earl picked up a glass of water from the side and took 2 sips. Eli sat quietly across from him. He wanted to know what the Marquis wanted to say, and he vaguely felt that it might have something to do with him. Well, also, after the establishment of the country, the king did not expand further, but stopped, but did not develop, just kept sending people to various places, as if searching for something. Searching for what? Eli's eyes moved, remembering the title page in Saren Meditlin's notebook, the last sentence on it. Not sure if I have found it. Moreover, the surname of Saren Meditlin dropped 2 words, which happened to be Merlin, and combined with the story of the king, it was hard not to make him think. Of course this is not the subject. The reason why I am so interested in that person is that your bottle of potion, I have seen, was rewarded by the king when I was a child. At that time, the king was Merlin. That's why I was curious about who it was. Elena spoke calmly, seeming to miss the past. But what he didn't know was that a turbulent wave had already set off in Eli's heart. The basic antidote is a real extraordinary potion. It is impossible to configure it without magic power. Does this mean that Merlin is not a wizard? Or is Seren actually Merlin? Build a country just to find one thing? Eli felt as though he had discovered something big. However, Eli still has a question in his heart. If Seren is really Merlin, then where did he come from, or there should be a way to reach the wizard's territory? These are questions for Eli. But don't worry, these things can be collected slowly. Eli shook his head. Even if he knew what to do, he still took it slow. These are just his guesses. It's really amazing. I always feel that there should be other powers in the world besides knights, maybe outside this area, outside the endless sea, outside the surrounding countries. Marquis Elena shook his head. Shaking his head, he exclaimed. I've seen some magical beasts before, and their power is incomparable to even a great knight. I was thinking, maybe there is a stronger power, maybe the black robe is that kind of person. It's a pity I'll never see them in my life. Marquis Elena let out a long sigh and fell into melancholy, while Eli was sure that the Marquis did not know the existence of wizards. It seems that there should be no wizards in the kingdom at present. Forget it, let's talk about your reward for saving me. After a few minutes of melancholy, Marquis Elena looked at Eli. Eli also sat up straight. Instead of worrying about the information that is not there, or even uncertain, it is better to be concerned about the reward the Marquis has given him. Chapter 40. Tell me, what do you want? As long as I can satisfy it, I will satisfy you. Marquis Elena looked at Eli and said generously. For a family in charge of many iron mines in the empire, the financial strength of the Elena family is no joke, at least among the Marquis. It is also one of the best, and belongs to the real top dignitaries of the empire. The idea of Marquis Elena is also very simple. Eli saved his life, then he will naturally do his best to meet Eli's needs. This is the rule of the nobles. He just paid some useless money, but Eli paid a bottle of precious potion. He also wants to see what conditions this young man can put forward. Is it an aristocratic title, a massive hintar, or a manor? Lord Marquis, I should have already told Count Gremory about my needs. I just need purple irises. Eli looked calm and replied. Just purple irises? Marquis Elena raised her brows with a surprised expression. He said that he could let Eli make conditions, but Eli only asked for purple irises? He naturally knew Eli's needs from the Earl of Gremory, but he didn't expect that when he offered such luxurious conditions, Eli would only ask for purple irises. For a time, this made him a little stunned. Are you sure you only need purple irises? Money, manor, these are all fine, even noble titles, I can help you find a way. As if uncertain, Marquis Elena asked again. Well, just purple irises. Eli nodded. The money is enough, the big deal is to go to the casino to get some. He doesn't need a manor, a villa, or something. After all, after a few decades, or even 100 years, he will definitely have to change his identity, change his place of residence, and it would be a waste to buy it. He prefers to rent it, and if it is too big, he will definitely need a servant. That is good for some of his usual experiments. Even the title, with the title, inevitably more social and troublesome, he felt that it was a bit boring. All right then. Marquis Elena nodded helplessly. This was the first time he wanted to send something but couldn't send it. But it also made him look up to the young man in front of him even more. I like you very much. Marquis Elena looked at Eli admiringly, but purple irises are not enough, so let me ask you to choose 3 items from my warehouse, anything will do. It seems to be too little, Marquis Elena added. This time, before Eli could speak, Marquis Elena stretched out his hand and said, You can't refuse this, this is a gift from a marquis. All right then, thank you sir. Eli nodded. Warehouses in this world are not really just warehouses. Most nobles store precious items in warehouses, and a marquis warehouse naturally contains more and more precious things. Maybe Eli can find some good things in it. It's okay, this is what you deserve, this is for you. Seeing Eli accepting it, Count Elena smiled, then suddenly reached out to his chest, took off his noble badge, and handed it to Eli Lay. This is the friendship of the Elena family. If you have any needs in the future, hold this badge, and the Elena family will try their best to help you. Okay, thank you Lord Marquis. Eli took the badge. He couldn't refuse this. First, this thing might really be used in the future. Second, it represented the friendship of a Marquis family. Well, that's the end of today's conversation. If you need help, you can contact me through the Earl of Gremery, or take the badge directly to the territory of the Elena family. Cough, cough. It seems that the Marquis's body is still not so good. He coughed twice after speaking. After coughing, he pulled the rope beside him. A bell rang from outside the door. Another small door in the room opened a few seconds later, and several doctors came in, and then cared for the Marquis. At the same time, a middle-aged man in a black suit also walked in. The Marquis waved him over, and then seemed to say something. Then the man walked over and said to Eli, "Mr. Eli, let me take you. Go to the warehouse." Yet. Eli nodded and stood up. Glancing at the Marquis surrounded by doctors, he turned and followed. Soon, the middle-aged man took Eli to turn left and right here, and soon came to the warehouse. This is a warehouse built on a mountain, with a thick iron gate separating the inside and the outside, and 2 knights standing outside to guard it at any time, and it is very close to the castle. If there is an accident, there will be a large number of knight aid. This is the number 1 warehouse, the collection of Lord Marquis. The middle-aged man took Eli and approached the warehouse. "Number 1, are there any other warehouses?" Eli asked, standing behind the man. "Of course, Lord Earl has a total of 3 warehouses here, and the value decreases in order. Usually, Lord Marquis rewards the 3rd warehouse. Although I don't know what you did, Lord Marquis must like you very much." The middle-aged man is actually the Marquis. The housekeeper looked at Eli with a smile. "That's it." Eli nodded in understanding. "Marquis is still very powerful. Then you can go in." The middle-aged man then negotiated with the soldiers guarding, and then some badges, and then the 2 knights slowly opened the door. Cough cough. As soon as the door was opened, a puff of smoke flew up, and Eli looked inside. The area inside is very large, basically in the shape of a cuboid, with shelves on both sides on which various things are placed. Although he just glanced at it, Eli still found a lot of good things. "The warehouse is very big, you can choose slowly." The butler patted Eli on the shoulder, indicating that he can go in. Eli nodded and walked in. Entering the warehouse, Eli began to check along the warehouse. "I have to say that it is indeed the collection of the Marquis, and there are many valuables in it. For example, Eli saw a piece of sapphire, and its purity and appearance were all top-notch. It is estimated that just 1 piece of sapphire could be sold for 100 hinters. Of course, Eli estimates that this should also be one of the relatively high-value items in this warehouse. I don't know what's going on in warehouse No. 3. Eli's hand swept over a piece of valuable armor, feeling a little emotional. This is the tail feather of the monster sunbird. Is this ore that the Empire produces very little? Oh, this is spiritual wood. The warehouse is very large, and Eli saw it one by one as if he had never seen the world. Although most of them were mundane items, he really found a lot of things he could use. While walking, Eli suddenly stopped and stood in front of a shelf. There is a black object like a ball on the shelf. This seems to be the slaughter of the ever-changing beast, right? Eli's eyes lit up. Chapter 41. The slaughter of the ever-changing beast. This thing was recorded in Saren's notes. It is an item left by the natural growth of a creature called the variety beast. Although this beast is not very strong, it is difficult to grasp because it has strong concealment and deformation ability. The same goes for its excrement, which shares the same extraordinary qualities. This may be exactly what Eli needs. Ever since he learned from Saren Meditlan that the first king might be a wizard, Eli felt that he needed to improve his hidden abilities. After all, he didn't want to accidentally reveal the wizard's identity one day. This thing is related to him. Having finalized the first item in his heart, he continued to move deep into the warehouse, picking out the Marquis's treasures one by one. Directly ignoring those items without spirituality, Eli looked like a torch, searching for what he might need. But the final result disappointed Eli a little. Except for the slaughter, there were almost no other things that Eli could see. He could only pick 2 that were barely okay. Eventually, Eli walked out of the warehouse with 3 items. They are the slough of the ever-changing beast, a material that can be matched with the slough, and the spiritual wood that was first seen. The first 2 he intends to make with other materials are a concealed witchcraft, and the third is a staff in the form of a cane. And when Eli came out, he also explained to the butler what he took away. The butler just remembered it and didn't say anything. After all, it wasn't his thing either. Well, the Earl of Gremory is already waiting for you on the other side. You will take you to find him. The butler politely said. Okay. Eli nodded and followed the housekeeper. Within a few hundred meters, Eli saw a carriage from a distance. It was the carriage that the Earl of Gremory had brought him. The Earl of Gremory was standing beside him, and next to him was another Eli who had not been there for a long time. See people. Hey, Eli? Are you here like this? Alex was chatting with Count Gremory when he saw his housekeeper bringing Eli, and immediately showed a surprised expression. I came with the Count. Eli didn't expect to meet Alex, and was a little surprised and replied. Well, he was indeed brought by me. Count Gremory said with a smile. Alex was immediately puzzled. He happened to come to the family manor today. He was walking on the road when he met the Earl of Gremory who saved his father's life. Naturally, he couldn't pretend that he didn't see it, so he took the initiative to talk and thank him. But when he asked about the Earl's purpose, the Earl just said he was looking for the Marquis, but he didn't ask the specific details for a long time. Now that he met Eli again, he was a little confused. In his impression, Eli was a student of Maester Lemon. He was very good at dancing and seemed to be very good at training horses. He had a good impression of Eli, but how could he appear in their family's territory? Totally can't figure it out. Since Eli is here, let's go first. Count Gremory said to Alex, who was bewildered, and stepped into the carriage first. Goodbye. Eli also smiled with Alex and got into the carriage. Then the coachman twitched his whip and the carriage drove off along the road. Alex stood there and didn't move, as if thinking about the cause and effect. Butler, do you know what Earl Gremory and Eli are doing? Alex asked. Young master, I don't know either. If you want to know, I think you can ask the master. The butler reminded with the characteristic politeness on his face. Ask father? Alex felt that this shouldn't be a big deal, but if he didn't figure it out, he would definitely not be able to sleep at night, so he turned and walked towards the castle. After a while, he came to the castle where Eli and the Marquis had chatted before. Father. In the room, Alex saw his father. What are you doing here? Marquis Elena asked suspiciously. At this time, he had just undergone the treatment and seemed to be much better. Father, I want to ask you something. Alex didn't hide it, and directly asked the doubts just now. Alex waited for his father's answer, but it seemed that the Marquis didn't answer him. Instead, he got up from his chair and walked to the window. Son, you are the helm of the future family. Logically, I shouldn't say it, but I think you should have the ability to think independently. Marquis Elena looked at Alex and said meaningfully. Alex frowned, as if he didn't quite understand. Tell you, I just met Eli, not Count Gremory. Marquis Elena sighed and said. Alex was really shocked this time, and subconsciously prepared to ask, but Marquis Elena did wave his hand to signal him to leave. I've said a lot, think for yourself. Alex was helpless and had to leave. Walking on the castle promenade, Alex frowned, thinking about his father's words. Is it specifically to meet Eli? I found the Earl of Gremory again, at this time? As he walked, Alex's eyes suddenly lit up and his mouth gradually opened. He seemed to understand why he wanted to see Eli, but it was a little too surprising. Outrageous. Alex took a few deep breaths before regaining his composure. Thankfully, he also thanked the Earl of Gremory for a long time. No wonder he always smiled when he heard it. It turned out that it was not the Earl of Gremory who saved people, but the Eli. He got it, my silly son. On the other side, through the window, Marquis Elena could see the carriage that Eli and the others were leaving, and sighed deeply. His son, in fact, is already excellent in all aspects, but he is still a little bit worse, balanced but not outstanding, and he does not have the ability to think independently. Thinking of Eli, who was chatting with him just now, he suddenly felt a difference and sighed. It seems that Alex will be sent to the mine for a while to exercise. Poor Alex, who didn't know what he was asking, got himself a lot of work. The other side. After the carriage delivered Eli, it took the Count of Gremory away. Eli looked at the house in front of him with mixed feelings. This trip he has gained too much. Not only those items, but more importantly, I learned from Marquis Elena that it meant Saline Mediclin. This wizard might actually be the first king of the Bern Empire. As a wizard, rights should be worthless to Saren Meditlan, a man who was at least a third-class apprentice, or even a full-fledged wizard, but he built the country. Just looking for something? Eli was also a little interested in what he said. However, there is no other information for now, and he has no clues. Eli intends to put this matter aside and wait until he is promoted to the second-class apprentice. And the matter of the purple irises has also been resolved, his potion can continue, and the things he got from the Earl need to be refined into witchcraft. I'm busy next time, but fortunately it's all my own business. Shaking his head, Eli walked into the house. Chapter 42. A month later. In the laboratory. Eli stared intently at the lab table in front of him. On the experimental table, in a container as thick as a bucket, there is a black sphere floating. The surface of the sphere is bumpy and it looks like there are many small holes. Next is the polishing liquid with the koala. Eli looked at the container calmly, took out another bottle of reagent from the side. The reagent was a strange blue-purple liquid, and poured it directly into the container. Gollum! Gollum! The liquid flowed into the container, and did not spread in the water, but surrounded the sphere inside and began to slowly melt into the sphere. Like the melting of the first snow, the purple gradually wrapped the black sphere, and then the sphere began to crack, and finally slowly melt. After half an hour, there was only a layer of black matter floating on the surface of the liquid in the container. This is the liquid slough. Eli waved his right hand, his mental power moved slightly, and the hand of the translucent element appeared, and then gently dragged the layer of liquid out. The materials have been prepared, and the next step is refining. The hand of the element dragged the material, and Eli looked to the side. On the ground next to Eli, a miniature alchemy circle had been depicted with the material, layered upon layers, presenting a complex and beautiful feeling. Put the materials into the alchemy circle, and the spiritual power is stimulated. Eli's eyes were fixed on the alchemy circle. Under the intervention of mental power, a prototype in the form of a black mask gradually appeared. At the same time, other materials were also thrown into it by Eli and merged with the mask. This step is in order to fuse and inspire extraordinary characteristics. After half an hour, the alchemy circle disappeared. A black and white mask slowly appeared. His left side is black, his right side is white, oval shape, the surface is extremely smooth, only the eye position has 2 holes. I'm missing the final rune. Looking at the mask, Eli showed a satisfied smile. He took the mask and began to engrave various runes on the mask. And this moment is 2 hours. When everything was over, Eli looked at the mask with runes carved in front of him and was really relieved. The witchcraft refining was successful. Let's call it the faceless mask. Feeling the silky feel of the mask, Eli named his first witchcraft. According to the division of wizards, this should be a 0-level intermediate level wizard. The 0 level represents the extraordinary level, which corresponds to the wizard's apprenticeship stage, and the intermediate level is the item level. The wizard is divided into 3 levels, low level, intermediate level, and high level. This is also a witch tool that Eli made for himself. There are only 2 effects, stealth and change. By wearing a mask, you can change your appearance at will, as well as hide your soul fluctuations and mental strength. The former is convenient for Eli to change with age and do some things in the future, while the latter is for Eli to better hide himself. It's much more convenient now. Eli took the mask and put it on his face. Immediately, the black and white mask seemed to melt, and Eli just thought of Herman's face in his mind. After a few seconds, his face had completely changed to Herman's. Exactly the same. I am afraid that even if Herman sees it, I am afraid that he will only shout God and then faint. Maybe I need a place to try it. Eli smiled, he was going to go out and experiment to see if this transforming ability worked. The same day. Under the night, all casinos were once again visited by Harry Potter. All the gamblers said that the man was back, but the casino was bleeding. Because of the previous Harry Potter incident, all casinos have already upgraded their casino management to the detection, just to beware of Harry Potter. But this time, Harry Potter seems to be even more weird, like the devil. There is no trace at all. For a time, some casinos even wondered whether Harry Potter was a person. A King's Landing myth is slowly being born. Of course, when casinos panic. Eli had already returned home. After his one night's verification, this ability to change is really useful, not only the face, but also the body shape can be changed as long as he wants. Coupled with the ability of the wizard, he made a lot of money. But for Eli, money has gradually become less important than it used to be, and as time goes by, money may become less and less useful. And with the completion of the witchcraft, his appearance can also be changed at any time, and there is no need to worry about seeing flaws in this aspect. Next, there is a walking stick, and the experiment of spiritual potion can also continue. Just yesterday, the latest batch of purple irises in Lock Manor had matured, and the Marquis directly sent someone to deliver it to him, and just told him when he needed to say it. Another month later, in the same laboratory, Eli withdrew his mental power and looked at the staff in front of him with satisfaction. This is a staff made of spiritual wood. The shape is like a walking stick. The whole body is black, giving people a gentleman's feeling. However, Eli carved some solid magic circles on it, making the strength of the walking stick comparable to steel. Can be used as a melee weapon in critical moments. Of course, the melee ability is only an auxiliary, his main role is to help Eli to cast spells faster and increase the strength of some witchcraft. This is a low-level zero-ring magic wand, which can increase the power of zero-ring witchcraft by 20%, which is not a small increase. Complete another mission, the most important thing next is the potion experiment. Eli sighed. Of course, he has been experimenting with potions this month, but he is unlucky. Because of the ratio, he will always encounter various problems. For example, it will damage mental power, cause physical deformity, hallucinations, etc. In short, he has been failing all the time. With the success of the wand, Eli finally has time to devote himself to the potion. But not today, he has to go to work today. After simply tidying up the laboratory, Eli walked out of the laboratory. He changed his clothes, took his cane, and simply tidied up his clothes in front of the mirror, admiring his unchanging and handsome face, and then walked out of the house. As soon as he walked out of the house, Eli could clearly feel a cold air coming. Snapped! A snowflake fell. Eli raised his head, the sky was filled with dark clouds at some point, and snowflakes were falling. Winter is here. Eli shook his head, this winter, many people will freeze to death. And if Eli remembered correctly, after the winter, the scholar's certification every 4 years will also begin, which is what Maester Lemon said 4 years ago to become a scholar. But that's a small problem, just take a look at it when the time comes. Becoming a scholar was never a problem for Eli. Chapter 43. Winters in the Empire are cold. This year seems to be colder than ever due to the cold wave. But for Eli, it's no different, it's just 2 points and 1 line between the Imperial Library and the home. The experiment went on, but it kept failing. Of course, Eli did not give up meditation during this process, because this was the foundation for him to settle down, and the witchcraft did not fall in the slightest, and continued to learn new witchcraft. He usually goes to the casino to play a little when he has nothing to do with get off work, but it is not like before, he is really just playing and trying not to cheat. If you lose, go home, and if you win, go to Luying Lane not far away. However, due to the characteristics of wizards, they also win more and lose less. In the blink of an eye, another 2 months passed. Eli received a little bit of news. Scholar's test postponed. In Maester Lemon's office, Eli was a little surprised. Yes, it may be because of the cold winter that it is not easy for scholars from other places to come here, so you are planning to postpone it until the summer. You don't need to be too nervous, just relax. Maester Lemon comforted. Eli nodded. Becoming a scholar is only part of his plan, but it doesn't matter if it's delayed. It's not a big deal anyway. He used to be jealous of the salary increase, but now he has long disliked the salary of the library. Here, it's just a matter of peace. Well, delaying it for half a year will also give you more confidence. You should prepare well. Bachelor Lemon looked at Eli with admiration. He's getting old and it's hard to rise. But these students of his still have a bright future. After experiencing the incident of the last Earl, he also appreciates Eli even more, and Eli never arrives late or leaves early, which also makes him appreciate it very much. Self-discipline is also a good quality. Well, teacher, I will prepare well. Eli nodded and left the room. On the way downstairs, he looked at the frost outside the window. There is an inexplicable feeling that the academic test may not be held next summer, and may have to be postponed. But this time reality did not go as Eli expected. Scholars' testing has not been postponed. May be cancelled. Because, War is coming. 310 years of the imperial calendar. With winter coming to an end. An earth-shattering event took place in the empire. The Duke of Frostwolf in the north rebelled, and united with the northern grasslands, ready to defect from the empire and form a new country. Everything seems to be coming true just like the rumors in the winter of previous years. For a time, the empire was surging. Although there is no news from the king, everyone knows that the storm has begun to blow. Sure enough, one day after 2 days, as King Bern VI issued a solicitation order, he summoned the lords under his command to prepare for war with the Duke of Frostwolf, and he had to go to the battlefield in person. This surprised everyone. Another half-month. Eli met the supreme ruler of the empire for the first time. Bern VI. I saw it on Sozako Street leading to the outside of the city. This is a king who is already an old man, wearing silver-white armor, standing upright in front of the chariot, with a white beard, but the aura emanating from his body is the strongest that Eli has ever seen. He was sure that it was the peak of the great knight. On both sides of the king were knights on horses, each of whom was at least a high-ranking knight, and behind him were long infantrymen, dressed in black display stands, like a long dragon. Is this the descendant of Saren Meditlan? Eli looked at the old man, but unfortunately he didn't have a portrait of Saren Meditlan, or maybe he could really confirm it. The war is about to start. Should I eat mashed potatoes or goose breast tonight? Standing in the crowd, Eli watched for a while and then left. Fighting, as long as it doesn't hit King's Landing, has nothing to do with him. The only pity is that this year's academics test may actually be cancelled. Time flies, and a month has passed. The king's marching speed was much faster than Eli imagined. In just half a month, he had already arrived at the domain of Duke Frostwolf, and was followed by a large number of other lords. And their opponent is the Duke of Frostwolf and the Union of the Steppe. The war has begun. A month later. The war is over. The war ended much faster than Eli imagined. Originally, he thought that since Duke Frostwolf dared to assassinate the king, or even rebelled, he must have been prepared, but he did not expect to lose so much in the battle. However, this cannot be blamed on Duke Frostwolf. It is said that the king was so brave that he led an army directly, and then went deep into Frostwolf Castle and pulled the Duke of Frostwolf from the bed. No one thought of this. After all, the king was already 70 years old. Wars start hastily and end more hastily. On the day of the king's triumph, Eli also paid a special visit. He mingled with the crowd and saw the king again. He rode on a dark warhorse with the blood of a demon beast, and his appearance did not change much from before, but Eli saw that this king's mental strength is not as strong as before. Or in general burning. Probably a few years to live. Just about 3 or 4 months. So many things have happened, but for many people, it has a great impact. With the death of a duke, a large area has become empty again, and a large number of nobles have begun to want to swallow them like jackals. But the king did not assign them to them, but assigned them to his second son, or his second prince, who was also named Grand Duke. As for the eldest prince, the prince that Eli had only heard of but had never seen, Eli estimated that he was already preparing for the succession to the throne. It shouldn't be a problem to live in the state before the king for 30 or 40 years, but now it is estimated that it will be 7 or 8 years at most, which makes the eldest prince, who is almost 40 years old, an unexpected surprise. Of course, for Eli, these may affect him layer by layer through the top, but the impact is very limited. After all, the library is not only independent of the empire, but he is only a librarian. If even he can be significantly affected, he feels that the country should be dying. As for the scholar test, let alone cancel it, the next time it will be held is also 4 years later. For this matter, Maester Lemon also specifically talked to Eli, as if to tell him not to worry too much and let him continue to work hard. Eli really doesn't matter, isn't it 4 years? He has more time. And recently, he is in a good mood. As time goes by, Eli's potion experiment has become more and more perfect, and he can feel that the day when a low-grade potion is prepared is getting closer. Everything is getting better. Chapter 44. The war is over, but the effects of the war continue to ferment. The first to be affected are the nobles of the empire. Because of this incident, King Bern VI began to set up a special agency to investigate a large number of nobles, and among these nobles, there are indeed a small number of problems, among which are the surrounding spies of several countries. As for the results of these nobles, it is natural to say no more, they all died quite miserably. Of course, more than that, he also began to clean up all aspects of the empire. The economy, politics, and military were the top priorities. The drastic reforms and tough methods made people panic for a while. Those affected privately said that the king must be crazy, but only Eli knew that this should be the king's final preparations for the prince to succeed the king. Change takes time, and Eli estimates it will take years. In this process, Eli was not affected very much, but people around him were greatly affected. Due to the economic reform, Roland's Chamber of Commerce actually rose up with this wind from the palace. The strength of the Chamber of Commerce began to expand, and the scope of business could also begin to expand, showing a feeling of prosperity. And because the king took back some of the iron ore, the power of the Elena family has shrunk a bit. Of course, there must be an exchange of interests. Eli doesn't know, and he's not very clear. Herman's father also seemed to be involved and was imprisoned. Then the eldest son inherited the noble title. The other heirs divided up the family property and left Herman a house on the outskirts of King's Landing. The sudden accident made Herman completely lose the hope of inheriting the title, but this made Maester Lemon very happy, because he felt that it would allow Herman to concentrate on his studies. But reality tells Maester Lemon that character is hard to change. Herman, you made a mistake again. Fortunately, the scholar test has been cancelled. If you pass it unexpectedly, it will simply lower the overall level of scholars. Can't you be more serious? The study room was filled with the angry voice of Maester Lemon. Eli was helping analyze the materials, and Herman was standing aside to receive the concern from Lemon. It's just that Herman at this time just stood quietly and lowered his head this time. Sorry. The low voice sounded like a twitch, and Lemon, who was scolding Zheng Huan at first, was stunned. It's okay, did something happen? Maester Lemon knew Herman's character, and something must have happened. I received news this morning that my father died in prison. Herman said sadly, tears falling to the ground drop by drop. Maester Lemon was also silent for a while. Eli also looked over, no wonder Herman's state is always in a trance today. Well, it's fine, in fact, what you did today is not bad. Maester Lemon was stunned for a few seconds before he said. Eli, take him out to play, rest and rest. He said to Eli next to him. Yet. Eli stood up and took Herman out. Eli, don't you think I'm stupid? Why can't I do anything like this all the time? Walking down the promenade downstairs, Herman looked at Eli with tears on his face. Of course not. Master Lemon scolds you because he thinks you still have hope for improvement. If he really ignores you, then it really means you're useless. Eli comforted. Although Herman was his senior, he was about the same age as Eli, both 20 years old this year. Maybe. Herman shook his head. My father also died, I will move to that house in the future, and I will work hard in the future. Suddenly, Herman raised his head, wiped away his tears, and smiled. That's good. Eli smiled and said, it's rare to have a leisure time today, so let's have a good time with you. Okay, where to go then? Herman replied, showing his teeth. Let's play in Moon Lane and Luying Lane. I haven't been. Have you been? How could I have been there? I gave up my life to accompany the knight today. If it hadn't made you happy, how could I have gone to that kind of place? Eli shook his head and said. Thank you. Herman smiled. The time for entertainment always goes by quickly. Herman only remembered that he was taken by Eli, eating, drinking, and having fun. The process was very pleasant, and it made him feel as if he had ascended into the clouds. It was his happiest day. But when he got home, he was also vaguely suspicious. Why do the young ladies in Luying Lane seem to know Eli? Moreover, Eli was too familiar with it, as if he had come home. Herman recovered well, worked harder the next day, and made fewer mistakes. This made Maester Lemon overjoyed. The only uncomfortable thing was that no one seemed to have scolded him recently, which made him feel a little aggrieved. Of course, this mission still had to be undertaken by Herman, so Maester Lemon raised Herman's standard, so the happy days came back, and Herman was still being scolded. As a result, several teachers and students returned to their once peaceful lives. Eli is also getting closer and closer to successfully configuring the potion. Should be successful within a year. But 3 months later, in the middle of the experiment, he seemed to have encountered a little accident. 3 months later. The 1111th experiment, the materials are purple iris, ghost mushroom, the specific ratio is 6:1. In front of the experimental table, Eli carefully wrote down the experimental data this time, and then picked up the already prepared potion. Walking towards the corner of the laboratory, a huge transparent box is placed here. At this time, there are many mice jumping around, looking very active. In vivo experiment. Just take out a little guinea pig. Eli moved him to another box and drank a few milliliters of the prepared solution. The mouse drank the liquid and passed more than 10 meters without any change. Eli waited patiently. He knew that the potion would take a certain amount of time to work. Another minute. Mice finally changed. I saw that his fur quickly started to dry up, and his body didn't seem to be getting thinner. But to Eli's surprise, the mouse's black eyes became brighter and brighter, like a ray of light, which was a sign of increased mental power. Failed. Eli shook his head. No doubt, it failed again this time. He took out the little mice and threw them aside. There were already a few dead ones, and he would clean them up after the experiment was over. No, it seems that this time I burned my body to gain a spiritual boost. Eli shook his head, preparing for the next experiment. Wait a minute, what burns is the body, but what burns in essence is the life force. This is actually the burning life and the improved spiritual force. Suddenly, in the laboratory, Eli's movements froze. The experiment failed, but it didn't seem to be a complete failure. Chapter 45. Burn Vitality, Enhance Spiritual Power. It was as if a flash of lightning struck Eli's brain, making him wake up a lot at once. Isn't it? Eli turned his head to look not far away. The withered mouse was still lying in the pile of mice. When there was still a small and half distance from the potion, his potion seemed to have changed a little. Eli is an immortal. Of course this year, he also did some experiments on himself. The clearest perception is that, immortality, his most direct expressive power is that his vitality will not be consumed. If the potion in front of him really only consumes life force, it can increase mental power. Then he can directly declare that the experiment was a direct success. Gollum. Eli took a deep breath and immediately reconfigured the potion. Today might be a sleepless night. 3 days later. In the laboratory. It really worked, it worked. Eli was holding a bottle of the newly prepared solution in his hand, showing an excited expression. After experiments, he finally successfully verified the effect of the potion. It actually consumed life force to improve mental power, and he found that the most important thing was purple iris. The more you added, the more mental power you could improve. Eli even verified a specific amount that could raise the potion to a level comparable to the original. I'm a genius. Eli smiled. It may be that he just didn't think about this route, and Eli never thought about it. But today, inexplicably created a potion so suitable for him. But this can't blame him. Saline Meditlin's notes are all serious potions. How could it be possible to record potions that consume the life force of the apprentice stage to enhance the spiritual power? That is simply harmful. Today is the right way. Eli pursed his lips, feeling that a strange path had opened up. Next is the experiment. As long as the experiment is successful, he can take it and start to improve his mental strength. 3 months later. At home. It's almost there. After 3 months of verification, Eli can confirm that the potion has no other shortcomings except that it consumes life force. Today is the day he takes it. His current mental strength is at 6.3. After recording his own data, Eli took out the medicine and took it directly. The moment he took it, Eli felt as if something was passing, and his mental power began to grow slowly, all of which happened quickly and slowly. If someone looks at Eli at this time, they can find that his state is very strange at this time. For example, his hair is turning white a little bit, and wrinkles gradually increase on his face, but every time, his hair turns black again and wrinkles also disappeared. It wasn't until half an hour later that the change gradually disappeared. Eli checked again. Mental strength has become 6.5. It was directly increased by 0.2 at one time, which is not much, but this time Eli used only the normal version for safety reasons, and did not use the luxury Krypton life-enhancing version. If it really follows this range, I am afraid that he will be able to advance to the second-class apprentice in a year and a half. However, considering the problem of drug resistance and the production cycle, this time will be a little longer. 2 years should be almost the same. Eli fell into thinking. Please don't ask him to do anything for the next 2 years. The passage of time is always fast and slow for Eli. The slow is the process, the fast is when he reaches the next point in time to look back. When Eli felt this way again, he realized that another 2 years had passed. And he is finally about to become a second-class apprentice. On this day, Eli took a special leave. In the basement, Eli felt his state. His mental power was 9.99, and on his right hand, there was a bottle of Krypton Life No. 1 potion that had just been made, which was the name he named the potion. After all, although this originated from the dark blue potion, in the end it actually had nothing to do with the dark blue potion, and because of its vitality-consuming effect, he named it Krypton Life No. 1 potion. Promotion. Eli directly opened the medicine and took it in one mouthful. The familiar feeling made Eli feel sour again, but the improvement in spiritual power also made him happy. Soon, the mental power broke through 10 points, and finally stopped at 10.1. No surprises and no bottlenecks. Nonsense, if there is still a bottleneck in the promotion of a second-class apprentice, then Eli's talent is not described as garbage, it can be directly said to be a garbage dump. It feels good. After absorbing the potion, Eli felt his own changes. As he was promoted to the second-class apprentice, the elements he could feel increased a lot at once, and the ability to communicate with the elements in his body was also greatly enhanced. Of course, this is only the main change. More Tuanzu will also make Eli's body stronger. Of course, it will take a while, but just like that, Eli can clearly feel that he is stronger. As for how strong it is, it needs to be tested to know. Immediately, after a simple clean-up, Eli went straight to the secret valley outside the arena. In the valley, Eli concentrated his mental power and began to depict the mental power rune, but in an instant, a huge fireball appeared in front of Eli's eyes. The fireball is twice as big as the first-class apprentice, and it is obvious that the temperature is much hotter, and the power contained in it is also much stronger. Release. The fireball instantly smashed towards the stone wall not far away. Boom! A huge roar sounded, and the fireball on the stone wall not far away exploded instantly, and the flame spread instantly, and the power of the explosion directly smashed the stone wall into a big hole, and the gravel flew towards the surrounding like rain. A wall of wind appeared, blocking these. In the wind wall, Eli smiled. Compared with the first-class apprentice, his power is at least twice as powerful. With other abilities, his combat power soars directly. Oh, and the staff can also improve some of his strength. Right now, I don't know the strength of the Great Knight, but below the Great Knight should be abusive. Although he has never fought with a knight, Eli has his own judgment. After testing the fireball technique, Eli tested other witchcraft and left directly after obtaining the specific data. On the way out, Eli saw that there seemed to be a lot more people than usual in the nearby woods. Did something happen? Eli asked towards a walking man. Ah, we heard a voice on this side just now, so we came over to take a look. The man was a little surprised when he was called suddenly, but replied anyway. Oh. Eli nodded and left. He should have put a soundproof magic circle on the valley. The sound of the fireball explosion was indeed a bit loud just now. Of course, he didn't need to worry about anything. Although there was no soundproofing, the concealment there was enough. There are other hidden means, even if it is advanced the knights don't even think about finding anything. There were many people heading in that direction, and Eli even saw a group of knights in King's Landing, but they just gave Eli a glance and ignored it. Just an ordinary person. Chapter 46. Returning against the flow of people, Eli soon arrived at the city gate. At this time, the city gate also seemed to be alerted by the sound of the explosion. The soldiers who were originally guarding the city put down the card bar and needed to be checked before entering. Eli didn't plan to do anything, and queued up along the flow of people. Mr. Eli. When Eli arrived, a familiar soldier greeted Eli. Yet. Eli nodded. Because he often went out, some soldiers even knew him, and he might even help a little. After a simple search, Eli passed through the city gate. After Eli left, another soldier next to the previous soldier asked curiously, "Do you know the gentleman just now?" "Yes, Mr. Eli, he's a scholar, he goes out a lot, and he's always polite, even as a homeless man, a respectable gentleman, who helped me get my son's name." The soldier replied with a smile. "Wow! My wife is about to give birth. If I can meet this gentleman again, I will ask." Another soldier exclaimed and looked forward. They are just the soldiers at the bottom of this King's Landing city, and people with identities don't bother to talk to or even chat with them, let alone ask scholars to help them come up with a name. Of course, it is very rare for a gentleman like Mr. Eli to distinguish between rich and poor. The soldier smiled and said proudly. Hurry up, can you guys hurry up, a bunch of shit. Suddenly, beside the city wall, a man who seemed to be a noble directly cut in the queue, dissatisfied. The soldier's face immediately put away his previous expression, and said humbly, Sir, I'm really sorry. The soldier explained it humbly, and the noble looked at it proudly, like a painting. Naturally, Eli did not see the picture of the soldier apologizing. Even if he sees it, he will not pay attention, because this is the current status of the empire, and it cannot be changed. When Eli returned to the city, instead of going home, he went straight back to the library and started today's work. Everything seems to be back to before. To be promoted to the second-class apprentice, it seems that there is no substantial change for Eli. Of course, Eli knew that this was an illusion, because as he advanced, he could do more things, and he was more free in many things, and his ability to survive in danger was greatly increased. But change is change, and for him, it will still maintain the rhythm of life before. He hopes this life can last a long, long time. A quiet life is always quick. In the blink of an eye, a year and a half has passed. Burn 313 years. This year, Eli is 24 years old, and it has been almost 7 years since he came to this world. In the past year, Eli has been familiar with the difference brought about by the promotion, and has also learned a lot of new witchcraft. He couldn't learn witchcraft before starting to learn other types. For example, soul branding, magic spells such as enchanting outspoken words, and some magic spells that he may need in the future. Also, with the reform of Burn 6, the empire has not only not become stronger, but has become weaker. This is because the king has removed a lot of redundant parts and simplified the empire to a certain extent. This is conducive to the long-term development of the empire, but the strength of the short-term empire is indeed weakened a lot, and many nobles have great opinions on the king. Of course, as I said before, these and Eli have little impact. His life was always peaceful, without any turbulence, but Herman's life seemed to be a little turbulent recently. Since Herman's father died 2 years ago, Herman has also worked harder than ever to learn all kinds of knowledge, but after a long time, it is inevitable that he will feel bored and even lonely. And Herman is also 24 years old. In this world, most of this age are married and even have children. Herman seems to realize this. Some time ago, it seemed that I met a girl and quickly fell in love. Eli, you said that Windsor and I have known each other for about a month. What gift should I give her? In the library, Eli was working with Herman, and he asked with some confusion. You can give it away. Eli replied by putting a book back on the shelf. Well, she told me that I like perfume very much, and my favorite is the tulip perfume from the Tulip Chamber of Commerce, but that one bottle costs 3 quintals, which is really expensive, but if she likes it, I will buy it for him. As if thinking of something sweet, Herman said firmly. Yet. Eli then responded. In fact, it's not that he doesn't want to care about Herman, the main reason is that this kid has been describing his sweet love in Eli's ear every day since half a month ago. The girl named Windsor was so beautiful, so gentle, and so kind to him. At first, he was still a little interested in hearing about it, but after half a month, he only felt a pain in his head. Eli, lend me some money. Suddenly, Herman turned his head and said. Eli turned to look over. Compared with 3 years ago, Herman at this time is obviously more mature, and he has an extra gold wire glasses. It seems that he has not jumped out of the past, and has matured a lot. Of course, Eli is similar. At this time, his appearance also looks a lot more mature. But that is what he changed through the mask of the faceless. In fact, his real face is still what he looked like when he was 18 years old. Borrowing money? Eli asked in confusion, frowning. If he remembered correctly, although Herman's father died, in addition to dividing the family property, he actually had some money. Although not many were distributed to Herman, there were always 20 or 30 hinters. In the past 3 years, Herman didn't spend much. He usually studied and worked in the library. Even if he occasionally went to relax, he would often treat guests. It shouldn't cost much, so why did he need to borrow money? Yet, Eli, I know you have money, lend me a little, and I promise to pay you back. Herman stretched out his right hand and promised. What about the money your father left you? It's gone. Eli asked back. Yes. Herman nodded. What's the matter, where did your money go? Eli's eyes became serious. With Herman's spending power, and he didn't buy any real estate, how could he spend so much in 3 years? Eli's sudden question seemed to catch Herman by surprise, and he hesitated to answer. If you don't tell me, I won't be able to lend you a loan today, or you can borrow money from the teacher, as long as you're not afraid of being interrupted by the teacher, Eli said. Don't, okay, I tell you, don't tell anyone else. Seemingly thinking of the perfume worth 3 hinters, Herman hesitated to tell his story. Eli listened. It's just that his expression became more and more strange as Herman spoke. After Herman finished speaking, Eli looked at Herman, the corners of his mouth twitched. What a sweet love story. Chapter 47. Herman's love story started a month ago. A month ago. After a busy day of work, he seemed to feel a little bored, so he went to the bar to drink a little wine, and it was there that he met his true destiny, Windsor. In Herman's description, Windsor is a beautiful girl with long burgundy hair, a slender and graceful body, who likes to wear clothes, and her eyes are always full of love for Herman. Of course, the last one is Herman's own feeling. The two met in a tavern, and then hit it off. That night, Herman experienced a sweet night, and the two promised good years in the future. For the next month, Herman and the girl would meet every few days, and Herman would always be generous with Windsor for all kinds of consumption. From this process, Herman gradually learned the identity of the girl. According to Windsor, she is from a neighboring country. They fled their hometown because of the war between the lords. Because of an accident, she and her brother and family were separated, and then the two came here all the way. Then he met Herman, a man worthy of his trust. His money was spent at this stage. Eli, maybe this is love. After speaking, Herman looked at Eli and said with a sweet expression. Are you sure she really loves you? Eli asked with a weird look. Why did he smell a strong routine in this story? The bar meets true love, a beautiful woman, falls in love at first sight, promises a lifetime, and escapes the background. Tisk tisk. If it wasn't for embarrassment, Eli felt that he would have to applaud. It was a beautiful love, a ghostly love story. 20 or 30 quintals are consumed in a month. According to the purchasing power of this world, it can be said that Herman spent almost $1 million or so a month, and it was spent on less than 10 appointments. This is a pure grievance. I think you may have encountered a liar. Eli said directly. He thought it would be better to remind Herman as soon as possible. Liar? How is that possible? Hearing Eli's words, Herman jumped up and shouted, We are true love, how could a girl as beautiful as Windsor lie to me? You haven't experienced it, I'm sure that this is true love, beautiful love, Eli, although you are my best friend, but I won't allow you to slander Windsor like this, he is a good girl. Man angrily, said quickly. Don't, calm down first. Eli didn't expect Herman's reaction to be so big. But it's reasonable to think about it. This kid, at the age of 24, has never been in love. Humph. Herman dressed sloppily, and then said, if she didn't really love me, why would she spend time playing with me? How could she say darling to me if she didn't really love me? How could she go to a concert with me if she didn't really love me? Eli blinked and did these things. Does he have to be in true love with you? Herman, you are too simple. Okay, I'll lend you money, but I have a request. Eli said, knowing that the persuasion was overwhelmed. Well, tell me. Herman replied. I can lend you the money, but since you have already planned to live together in the future, I think that as your apprentice and teacher, I have to meet. Eli said helplessly. As Herman's junior, Eli felt that he had to take care of the senior. If it is really a scam, then you have to prepare in advance. Although Herman's money is gone, you must know that Herman's father left a house for Herman, which is worth close to 100 gold tall. But Windsor said that she doesn't want to see other people until it develops to a certain extent. Herman was a little confused. If she is really so determined to be with you, isn't it a matter of time before she sees us? Is there anything to worry about? I think the teacher will also be very happy. Eli asked back. Seemingly persuaded by Eli, Herman nodded and said, okay, I'll ask. Yet. Eli nodded, then took out the purse from his arms and threw 3 hinters to Herman. Thank you, Eli. After receiving the money, Herman finally smiled and said, don't worry, Eli, I will definitely talk to Windsor about this. And don't be surprised all the time, I'm very smart, how could I be deceived, not to mention Windsor is so gentle. Go, go, work hard. Seeing that Herman still had the urge to continue talking, Eli left directly. After get off work in the afternoon, Eli did not leave directly, but went to the second floor, ready to go to the teacher to talk about the problem at this time. Clap clap clap. Eli knocked on the door. Come in. A voice came from the door. Eli walked in. At this point, Maester Lemon was still working. Eli, what's the matter? You don't usually see each other after work, so why did you come to me today? There are more wrinkles on the face and the hair on the head is a lot whiter. Teacher, that's it, Herman. Eli said it directly. After listening, Maester Lemon also put down his pen and his face became serious. Sure enough, the teacher also felt that something was wrong. Seeing the reaction of Maester Lemon, Eli nodded, saying that he was also an old man, and he still had some experience. You are right, this matter is really not right. Maester Lemon stood up. Teacher, you also think Herman was deceived? Eli said directly, but before he could finish speaking, he heard Lemon say, it's really not right, if Windsor is really so beautiful, he might be able to like Herman. Woolen cloth? Not right, very wrong. Eli. CO authoring teacher, do you think so? Teacher, I mean, is it possible that this Windsor is a liar? Eli said speechlessly. Liar. Lemon frowned, as if he hadn't thought about this. That's right. I even asked them to meet. I'll talk about it later. After all, Herman is a bit stupid, so I'd better confirm it. Eli added. It makes sense, that's what I actually thought just now. Lemon nodded and said in agreement. Well, that's it, it's good to see you then. Okay, then teacher, I'll go first. Eli left directly. For Herman, he added more than 10 minutes to work. Such a good student, where can I find it? Meanwhile, the cask bar. In a single room. Windsor, I think our development is almost the same. I want to arrange for you and my teacher and junior to meet and chat together. Herman sat by the bed and held a woman's hand. The woman had burgundy hair, and was wearing light clothes at this time. She was very sexy. She was snuggling in Herman's arms at this time, like a delicate bird. However, she was obviously taken aback when she heard Herman's words, seemed to think for a while, and then said coquettishly, okay, as long as you like it, I can do it. Hey, Windsor, you're the best. Herman felt the softness of Windsor's body and couldn't help but smile, hugging Windsor, as if he was about to do something. Don't be like this, I'm a little uncomfortable today. Feeling Herman's intention, Windsor quietly released Herman's hand and said. That's fine. Herman was also taken aback, but nodded. I want to have a good rest today, you go first, it will be too late if you don't go. Windsor then coquettishly said. Okay, oh, by the way, this is the perfume you want. Herman stood up, and took out the perfume he bought in advance. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Wow, I love you the most. Seeing the perfume, Windsor's eyes lit up and gave Herman a big hug. Hey, what I should do, then I'll go first. Herman laughed. After the hug, Herman left alone. And as soon as Herman left, the smile on Windsor's face disappeared. She walked to the wall and knocked on the wooden wall. After a few seconds, the door opened and a man walked in. He's tall and strong, and he can feel the exploding muscles under his clothes even if he's just wearing a long coat and long sleeves. As soon as the man came in, Windsor walked over immediately, hugged the man's arm, and said. David, this silly boy is already in the trap. As long as the proof of his house is sold, we can leave here, but there is one more thing, that is, his teacher wants to see me. Well, it's normal. When you do a little better, there should be no problem. Don't worry, even if there is an accident, the strength of my senior knight is enough to solve everything. The man named David said, a fierce light flashed in his eyes. Well. Windsor estimated David's chest and said charmingly, oh, by the way, you are my brother now, and I shouldn't call you by your name. Then brother, do you want to take good care of your sister? Windsor looked up and looked at David Road. No respond. But one arm had already picked up Windsor directly and walked towards the bed. Meanwhile, outside the pub. Herman glanced at the tavern behind him and left contentedly. I'm also worried that he'll be home too late. Windsor really loves her. Chapter 48. 3 days later. Eli and Maester Lemon met the Miss Windsor in an imperial restaurant. Hello, I'm Eli, Herman's apprentice. This is my teacher, Bachelor Lemon. In a luxurious private room, Eli stretched out his hand towards the lady. Hello, I'm Windsor. Windsor and Eli shook hands gently. Today, she was wearing a pale pink dress with long burgundy hair and a better face, which made her look more charming. I'm Herman's teacher, Maester Lemon. Maester Lemon also nodded towards Windsor, and he also felt that something was wrong. Such a beautiful girl, can she really like Herman? Everyone, sit down. Herman smiled, and it was obvious that he was very happy. The people are seated. The waiter began to serve, and Maester Lemon asked about Windsor. Windsor also answered very seriously. It can be seen that he is still prepared. It is still a bit difficult to see the true and false based on this. Therefore, Eli opted for another, more direct approach. While a few people were chatting, Eli's eyes had light spots like stars, and in the darkness, Eli's vision gradually changed. There are all kinds of pheromones in the air, like stars. This is the Eye of Zero Ring witchcraft information. It can observe some things that are invisible to the naked eye, mainly pheromone. He looked at the three of them. Herman's body is very clean, except for some pink substances. All kinds of dust, horse breath and air are mixed together, which is a very normal situation. As for pink, it should be from Windsor. Maester Lemon and Herman are similar. But when Eli turned to look at Windsor, he was stunned. At this time, Windsor, in addition to its own pheromone, Herman's pheromone, a small amount of Eli and Maester Lemon's, was also full of other pheromone belonging to human beings, and it was estimated that there were dozens of them. Among them, there are still 7 or 8 pheromones left in the body, which means it is self-evident. Because the pheromone in Eli's mouth is not a conventional pheromone, it is more accurate to refer to the breath of witchcraft, or similar characteristics, which can generally be retained on a human body for about 3 months to half a year. This shows that within half a year, Windsor has had a relationship with at least 7 or 8 people. And judging from the latest pheromone, there has been the same pheromone every day in recent days. But if Eli remembered correctly, Herman lived in the library for the past 3 days. Gollum. Eli's guess was correct, there is no love, it's just the temptation of money. At this time, the chat between Maester Lemon and Windsor was good, and it seemed to be very harmonious. This woman named Windsor still had some tricks, otherwise it would be impossible to fascinate Herman fans. However, the main questions that Maester Lemon asked were ordinary questions and could not be asked. Eli decided that it was time to take the initiative. Cough cough. Suddenly, Eli coughed twice, and several people looked at him. That's right, as for me, I'm actually someone who has always been yearning for exotic customs. I know a lot about it. I heard that Miss Windsor is from another country. Can I ask a few questions? Eli said with a smile. Lemon? When did you yearn for exotic customs? I don't know. Of course. Windsor responded with a smile, and she did not refuse this question at all. But after a few minutes, the smile on her face gradually solidified, and tiny beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. How confident I was just now, how panic I am now. At the beginning, Eli asked really foreign questions, and she knew most of them, but she didn't know why they suddenly talked about their situation here and what they did here. But how can they say what they did when they came to the Empire? They can only make up. But Eli asked more and more questions, and the logic became more and more close, which made Windsor gradually not know how to answer, and felt a kind of answer to the fear of facing her teacher when she was a child. It's a pity that Rias is not here, otherwise she will definitely feel the feelings of Windsor deeply. Seeing that it was about to collapse, suddenly, I saw Eli in front of him and said with a smile, "That's all I want to ask. Thank you, Miss Windsor, for helping me clear my doubts." "It's okay." Windsor didn't seem to have thought about why Eli suddenly stopped, but he still felt like a stone fell to the ground. God, it's finally over. Herman on the side was also very strange at this time, why Eli asked a bunch of seemingly irrelevant questions, but it should be for his own good, so he didn't stop it. In his heart, except for his mother, Eli should be the person with the best relationship with him, and he is willing to believe that Eli will not do bad things to him. Only this time, he thought it was Eli who made a mistake. After Eli's chat, there was a normal chat, but occasionally Eli would interject 2 sentences, and Windsor answered very cautiously every time. After chatting, Eli and the others left first. Eli, I just said Windsor is a good girl. On the way, Herman said to Eli. Eli just glanced at him calmly. My stupid senior. Oh, by the way, I forgot something, I'll go back and get it. Eli said suddenly, as if remembering something. Okay. Herman and Maester Lemon nodded and watched Eli return. Horrible. At this time, in the original box, watching a few people leave, Windsor wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and panted. In fact, she has experienced similar meetings many times, and it has been the same situation in the past. He and David have been wandering between different countries and cities. Windsor relies on his beauty to attract some people's interest, and then deceives, and David guarantees the process. Of course, they generally do not choose people with real status, so they will be difficult to handle, and they generally choose people who have some money but no power. This time, he met Herman. Originally, I just wanted to make a small profit, but after hearing that Herman still had a house worth nearly 100 hintels, the two immediately decided to do it. So there are these things, otherwise they should have left in a few days. After all, they had already earned more than a dozen hinters on Herman, which was also their normal gain, but this time they wanted more. But today's meeting really made her a little scared. Every time Eli asked her, she felt as if she had been seen through. Fortunately, it's over, they shouldn't see the problem. Windsor took a deep breath and prepared to leave. Suddenly, the door to the box opened again, and in came someone she didn't want to see, Eli. Sorry, I forgot something. Eli walked in politely. Do you need me to help you find it? Windsor didn't expect Eli to come back again, and his heart beat fast again. It doesn't matter, I remember where it was. This time Eli walked in directly, then walked to the table and picked up a copper towel from the table. Oh, it's here, I almost lost it. Windsor. I thought I forgot something, but it turned out to be a copper towel. Oh, by the way, Miss Windsor, there is one more thing I need to tell you. Eli said easily as he put the copper tower back into the purse. What? Windsor was a little puzzled. You and Herman are not suitable, please leave him. Eli raised his head and looked at Windsor. Windsor's pupils dilated instantly, but she still replied, I don't understand your suggestion. Herman and I are truly in love. Ah. Eli walked towards the door, and when passing Windsor, in a voice that only the two of them could hear, he said coldly. This is not advice, it's a warning. If something happened to Herman, my job would increase a lot and I would be very unhappy. The cold voice entered Windsor's ears, making her feel a little chilly. Just when she was about to say something, she realized that Eli had left the room. After a few minutes, she left the room. Chapter 49. The other side. Because Herman and Maester Lemon had already left, Eli returned to the library alone. In the inquiry just now, coupled with the evidence left in his body, he was very sure that Windsor was definitely a liar, a habitual criminal who cheated money. There is a reason why the warning was given instead of shooting directly. One is that this is inside the city of King's Landing, which is a little inconvenient, and if someone dies, it will be cruel to treat Herman, and she must have accomplices, it may be more troublesome at that time. The second is that her purpose is to seek money. Even if something really happens, Herman will definitely be fine in a short time. It's up to her to know her interests or not. Eli shook his head. Windsor left on its own, and that was the best case scenario. Of course, if she really didn't want to leave, but did some irrational behavior, Eli wouldn't mind doing something. Along the way, Eli soon returned to the library. The second floor of the library. In the office, Eli saw the teacher, but not Herman. But seeing the speechless expression on Maester Lemon's face, he knew what happened. Herman left, he still thinks she has met true love. Bachelor Lemon said speechlessly. Oh. Eli nodded. Eli is quite sure, but Maester Lemon should also have an idea. After all, he is old and mature, and Maester Lemon is about to turn 60. Naturally, he also sees a lot of storms. Hey, the Imperial Police Station is closed today, I will find someone in person tomorrow. As a teacher, Lemon naturally didn't want to watch Herman enter the fire pit. As for the Imperial Police Department, it is similar to the police department. Well, don't worry about this matter. If something really happens, there might be other people behind this, Windsor. Your small body can't handle it. Maester Lemon added. Yet, Eli nodded. Don't worry, we didn't stimulate Windsor, they won't do it for a short time, there is still enough time. Maester Lemon comforted. This afternoon. In the office of Maester Lemon, there was an exclamation. What? Herman is missing. In the room, Maester Lemon looked at the library staff in front of him with surprise. It turned out that it was Lemon who was still worried, so he sent someone to look for Herman in the afternoon, but he searched the house, but still could not find Herman, and he disappeared. It's true, the Imperial Police Station has already closed for get-off work, and it will definitely not dispatch personnel because of a person who is not sure if he is missing. Lemon murmured. The fact is, the people from the Imperial Police Station can be expected to be dispatched at night for this kind of thing. No, I have to find someone. Maester Lemon seemed to realize something, and immediately walked towards the door. If you are talking about people who care about Herman, Maester Lemon is definitely the first few. But before he could go out, he turned to Eli, who was raising his head not far away, and said, Eli, go back first, you go back and wait for the news. Eli is here tonight, helping out with the work. But he also looked weird at this time. Warning at noon, and starting in the afternoon, this is too contempt for him. At this speed, Herman can't take the initiative to send it to the door. Okay, teacher. But Eli still said to Lemon. Saying that Lemon had already left the room, Eli also left. Going out of the gate, at the same time, closing your eyes and sensing the location of Windsor. When he went back in the morning, it wasn't really just a warning. In the same silence, he also left a mental imprint on Windsor so that Eli could find her. At this time, she seemed to be in a house in the city. Facing the fact that Windsor completely ignored Eli's warning, he was a little angry. Inside the city of King's Landing, west of the city. This is a slum that is about to be abandoned. It is said that it is going to be demolished and rebuilt, so there are almost no people here at this time, and there are dilapidated houses everywhere. At this time, there were 3 people in a fairly complete yard. But at this time, 2 people were standing, and 1 person was already unconscious and tied to a chair. David, is this really good? I really don't feel right. Windsor said to David, who was beside him with a tangled face. After hearing Eli's warning today, she was really scared, so she went back to the tavern to inform David that he was going to leave. Although David was uncomfortable, he agreed to leave. But when they were about to leave, Herman actually came. It may be because of the ferocity, David actually proposed to tie Herman directly, asked where the house certificate was located, then sold the house certificate to the black market, and then left. Don't hesitate, it's all done. Just torture it for a while, kill the guy with proof, sell it and leave. I've already contacted the black market. David, after all, is the backbone, he said. But who dares to ask for it? Windsor hesitated. Humph, who do you think is behind the black market? Isn't it all those big shots? They don't care. David snorted coldly. Seeing that David was a little unhappy, Windsor didn't dare to speak. Relax, we shot 7 or 8 times, and none of them failed. A warning will make you scared like this. Humph, that is, if he is not here, if he is here, I will kill him directly. David also seems to like Windsor. Said comfortingly. Yet. Windsor nodded and did not hesitate. Oh? Who was killed? Suddenly, in the quiet courtyard, a voice suddenly appeared. David and Windsor froze for a moment at the same time, then turned to look. Not far from the broken gate, a man dressed in black with a cane in his hand walked in slowly. Eli. Windsor's eyes widened, as if she couldn't believe how she could see this person. On the contrary, David looked cautiously at Eli, who walked in, his eyes wandering in other directions. A good place to do bad things. Eli commented on the courtyard as if he hadn't seen the 2 of them. How did you find this place? I don't know when. David has already picked up the long sword of the night that he had carried in advance, and looked at Eli with a serious face. Are you nervous? You don't need to be nervous, I'll be alone. Seeming to see David's tense muscles, Eli smiled. David felt amazing right now. There's a hint of weirdness in the chaos. He was very nervous at first, but until he saw that Eli was really alone, he felt a little better, but Eli's calmness made him feel strange. Obviously an ordinary person, who gave you the courage to come here. David also knew that he had no other choice but to kill Eli today, so he did not hesitate to write, no nonsense, his muscles tightened quickly, and the long sword was tightly held in his hand. In the next second, he suddenly shot and stepped on the ground. The terrifying power directly caused a small pit to appear on the ground. He swung his long sword and slashed towards Eli. He used this kind of attack to cut down before the heads of many enemies. Today is no exception. Go to hell. David grinned. But the next second he froze. Just when he was a few meters away from Eli, a wind wall suddenly appeared, directly blocking his long sword, and then he saw the man pick up the cane and glance at him. Then the head seemed to be hit hard, dizzy instantly, and was thrown directly into the sky by the wind wall. At high altitude, he couldn't do anything at all, and he was also in a state of dizziness. But when he finally regained his clarity, he saw that a wind blade had lightly kissed his neck. Moment. Blood filled the sky, and in a trance, David saw his body separate. Am I dead? David's line of sight gradually fell into darkness. With a bang, the two halves of the body fell to the ground. At this time, on the other side, Windsor was already frightened and looked at this scene in a stunned manner. Is this the devil? Does this world still have such power? Could this be the power of the Great Knight? But is that the case with the Great Knight? Fear instantly enveloped Windsor, and she fell directly to the ground. Forgive me. Seeing David's instant death, Windsor tremblingly begged. But Eli didn't seem to intend to answer, just a wind blade flew over. Blood splashed again. I gave you a chance, and chances are often only one. Eli walked over slowly, looked at the corpse in front of him, and sighed. Chapter 50. Dark Courtyard. Eli stood on the clean ground between the pools of blood, and his mood was slightly different. I didn't feel anything when I killed him just now, but now I have a strange feeling. Maybe it was the wizard's rationality helping him, and Eli didn't feel any discomfort. There is no pain, excess emotions like regret, and even the joy of leaving get off work early today seems to be stronger than that. Too rational is not necessarily a good thing. Eli sighed, and then began to touch the corpse. Just kidding, killing people and touching corpses, isn't that normal? In the end, Eli found more than 50 hinters on the two of them, as well as a copy of the Law of Chivalry. Not expecting to capture the Knight Law, Eli was also surprised. It's not that he has any ideas about the path of knighthood, he just thinks that he can have a deeper understanding of knighthood through this book, and Eli is also very happy about this. After touching the corpse, Eli left directly. As for Herman, put him here. When he wakes up, he will definitely be pleasantly surprised. The next afternoon, the Imperial Police found Herman in this abandoned house. According to Herman, he woke up at noon and saw that scene, and he was again, so he almost wriggled out of there before he was discovered. No one knew how Herman was in the mood that day. But that night, Herman also learned from the Imperial Police that Windsor and David were habitual criminals, which made him feel extremely ashamed. So, on the fourth day at work, Herman said he would take on more of the work in the future, which was a surprise to Eli. Herman's ability to bear is very strong, and he quickly got out of this matter. It is said that he met a nurse when he was still in the hospital, and the two seemed to meet each other's eyes. This time it was normal, just an ordinary girl. The two are going to get married a year later, of course, that's something else. As for who killed Windsor and David, no one cared. At first, the people from the police station wanted to investigate, but there was no clue, so they gave up directly. Anyway, no one would care about the life and death of the two wandering criminals. There is also Mr. Lemon. He went to a familiar nobleman for help that day, but he didn't see anyone, so he went to the Imperial Police Station the next day, ran for a day, and then found Herman there. As for Eli, didn't he go home to sleep? This matter has nothing to do with him. Herman's story came to an end. The empire on the other side suddenly became turbulent. I don't know where the news came from, the king's body is dying, and suddenly the entire king's landing, or the entire kingdom is floating. The common people love the current king, and when he was the king, the empire has been developing well, and no one knows what will happen in the future if he fails. Of course, the surrounding countries are also more concerned about this matter than them. The most obvious feeling is that there are many more people in other countries, and no one knows what purpose they have arrived in King's Landing. Eli, on the other hand, commutes normally. Krypton number 1 will take a bottle every so often, and his mental power is also growing, but he can obviously feel that his resistance to this medicine has become stronger and stronger, and it may not be long before he disappears. use. As for the chivalry law he found from David before, he also carefully read it. It was discovered that the promotion of the original Grand Knight was really going to incorporate elements, but there was no record of how they were incorporated. This should be a secret, and he didn't put too much effort into it. Half-year later, Eli received a message from the teacher. Possibly out of diplomatic considerations, the Empire decided to visit neighboring countries to forge deeper ties. There will be an imperial marquis leading the team, and then some knights, musicians, scholars, etc., to visit and communicate at the same time to establish friendship between the two countries. As for who leads the team, who they bring, and where they go to visit, they are all secrets of the Empire. However, Eli knew a lot that this matter would not be delayed for too long. He reckoned that this was the last paving way for the eldest prince before the king died. Of course, this matter has nothing to do with Eli and the others. First of all, it is impossible for the visiting group to take him directly as an ordinary librarian. Even if he goes, it must follow his teacher. But with the usually low-key level of Bachelor Lemon, there is almost no chance of being selected. Although this is only a diplomatic activity, it is a very good qualification for a bachelor. It is estimated that there will be many famous bachelors and even majors. It really wasn't that Eli looked down on the teacher. If it is said that he is a librarian who lives every day, then the current situation of Bachelor Lemon is that of the bachelor. Maybe he is old and knows that he can't compete, so he simply does his own thing conscientiously. It can be said that Lemon is the most low-key bachelor among all bachelors. Even if there are activities outside, they hardly participate, unless it is compulsory. Eli didn't care about that either. That's fine too. At the same time, Royal Palace. In the palace, on the throne sat the pale-faced Burn 6, flanked by 2 guards, and below, stood a man who also looked no younger than the king. Marquis Elena, you know that although the kingdom is in good shape now, after my death, whether it is a mouse in the Empire or a jackal outside the Empire, there will be some action. At this time, we need more friends to help us. This time, I will send you to the Kingdom of Lorraine to establish an alliance with them. Yes. Marquis Elena also raised his head and looked at the king. This man who was once a peak knight has become what he is now, which is truly embarrassing. It is almost impossible to go directly into the enemy camp and kill the Duke of Frostwolf, even if it is a great knight, but he did it. It is unimaginable. Okay, then you can go first, the staff has been fixed, but if you want to change, it is up to you. The king waved his hand and motioned for Marquis Elena to leave. The two have known each other for many years and are already very familiar with each other. Yes. Marquis Elena didn't talk nonsense and left directly. After Marquis Elena left, Burn 6 stretched out his hand to signal the 2 guards to leave. After a while, another man walked in. He was wearing a loose bachelor's robe, with white hair, black pupils and a strong body. Aisha, your time is running out, the man said. I know. The king, Aisha, coughed twice, and a mouthful of blood flowed out. The items left by the ancestors can only be used by relying on the stones left by the ancestors, and I have to consume my flesh and blood. It's really scary. Obviously I am a big knight, but after using it, I can burst out with a power far stronger than that of a knight. Burn 6 said helplessly. Oh, if you don't have that power called spiritual power, but you want to use it, it's impossible, so you paid the price. The man glanced at the king and shook his head. Haha, yes. Burn 6 smiled and asked, are you still looking for that kind of power? Of course, since Saren came from outside, there must be a place called Wizard. I've been looking for it, but I haven't found it. The man shook his head. Ha, don't find it, and you were killed directly. Burn 6 said hee. If that's the case, I recognize it too. The man shook his head and said. Also, your eldest son has been trying to interfere in the library recently, and I won't allow such a thing to happen. Haha, okay, I will warn him, but after I die, it is estimated that I won't be deterred for long, after all, he is the future king. Burn 6's pale face showed a smile. It was never a secret that the king had a good relationship with the librarian. Well, then I'll go, you take care of yourself. The man took one last look at Burn 6, and then left. Finally, in the empty palace, only Burn 6 on the Iron Throne remains. Chapter 51. The Other Side. As soon as Marquis Elena returned home, he lay on the sofa. Although he recovered from the poisoning a few years ago, he also had some minor problems, such as being more tired than before. Father, this is the list given by the king. At this time, someone came in from outside the door. Alex. Compared to more than 3 years ago, he is also more mature. He is much older than Eli, he is 26 years old, and he is already engaged to the daughter of another marquis family. In fact, many of the people Eli once knew were already engaged or even married. Kurt was married when he was 19, before Eli came. Herman and Alex are also about to get married. Even Klein and Elise, who were once in a relationship, are already married. Of course, Eli was not invited to their wedding, but Klein seems to have invited Eli. But he didn't go. Speaking of which, Maester Lemon has also told Eli many times that he should find a girl to marry, but Eli doesn't seem to have such a plan and is anxious. Enrius, who seems to be currently single, has left the library, returned to the Gremory family, and is said to be leaving King's Landing for the fief granted to her by the Count. Oh, is that the list for the cruise? Asked Marquis Elena. At present, Alex has taken over a lot of the family's estate, and he is trying to develop Alex into a good heir in the rest of his time, so a lot of things are actually Alex in help. Yes, the king sent it over just now. Alex nodded and handed over a document to get it. Marquis Elena took the document, opened it, and took out a few pieces of paper. On the paper was the list of the trip. Nobles, Marquis Elena, Earl of Evan, Earl of Gremory. Knights, Grand Knight Hawthorne, Imperial Knights Academy, Grand Knight Leiden, Imperial Royal Knights, Grand Knight, Knight Abaddon, Imperial Knights Academy. Others, Robert, Imperial Abbey, Physician, Hella, Imperial Library, Bachelor. Just by visual inspection, there are dozens of main members. If these people also bring students, followers, etc., there may be more. There are too many people. Marquis Elena shook his head. If it is the current situation, the number of people will probably be hundreds of people. They are going to diplomacy, not war. These people are all removed. He was also a screener and removed some unnecessary people. The father, do you want to replace some people? The head of the Cross Chamber of Commerce wants to participate in this event, and he has paid a lot. This is, Alex said. Okay. Marquis Elena nodded and added another person. Alex is at the helm of the future, and he doesn't mind leaving him some power and convenience. He knows a lot about it. Although it is diplomacy, the benefits are too great. Among the characters he just deleted, it is estimated that there are a lot of things that cost a lot of money to get up. How many people want to squeeze in? Oh, by the way, and this. As if he suddenly remembered something, Marquis Elena picked up the pen and deleted Hella, Imperial Library, Bachelor. Father, Hella seems to be the youngest bachelor in the Empire. He is 26 years old. He has also put forward several suggestions for construction. He has extensive knowledge and a certain reputation. It is not easy to delete it like this. Alex said aside. Hearing this, Marquis Elena glanced at him directly, and then said, "We are going to diplomacy, the situation outside is complicated, she is too young, what we need is an experienced old bachelor. Do you understand?" Alex wanted to say something at first, but he suddenly remembered something and was stunned for a while before saying, "Understood." Then who do you think is the most suitable? Marquis Elena asked again. In terms of qualifications, in terms of library, I think Bachelor Lemon is very suitable. This time, Alex was decisive. Well, what you said makes sense. Marquis Elena pretended to think for a moment, and then agreed. After a few words, the two of them deleted a famous bachelor from the Empire and replaced it with a Bachelor of Lemon. As for the reason, of course, needless to say. They are carrying private goods, so what? Anyway, the king has given him the right, what to do, that's his business. As for who Hella is and what does it have to do with him, he is just a bachelor who doesn't quite meet his needs. The chat between Marquis Elena and Alex Eli is naturally unknown. He's still doing the same as usual, then preparing for the upcoming scholars test. 4 years, 4 more years, this time I must become a scholar. Eli said while walking on the road. I don't really want to be a scholar, but if I can become a scholar, he will increase his vacation by 5 days a month, reduce his workload by half, and increase his salary. How could he refuse this? The test is of course a certainty for Eli. When the time comes, it is estimated that he will test it casually, and it is estimated that he will be stable. It is not difficult at all. It's that Herman is a little hung up this time. Eli shook his head. Herman studied with the teacher a year earlier than Eli, and it is almost 9 years now. He is the same age as Eli, 25 years old, and the average age of becoming a scholar is actually 30 years old, which also knows the gold content of Hella 26 to become a bachelor. Eli now remembers the time Maester Lemon said he wanted to be a scholar in 4 years, and he learned later that he had said that to Herman, and he had said it to Takeo. It's just pure chicken soup. Calm life. Eli sighed. In fact, his life is really dull, and the main part of his life is work and experiments. The news that the Marquis confirmed the list quickly spread. And with the report of the list, some people already know the people on the list. Many people feel heartache when they see it. Even though they spent money, they still didn't get on the list. At the same time, in a villa, a woman looked at the letter in her hand with surprise in her eyes. The woman is about 25 or 6 years old, with a good face, wearing a black bachelor's uniform. Although it is large, it is not difficult to see the bumpy figure underneath. At this time, she was sitting in the living room, and the living room was full of various books. It was like a sea of books. When a woman sat in it, there was a fusion of intellectual and beauty. But at this time, the beauty was furrowing her brows. Because the letter that just arrived told her that she had been squeezed out of the parade and was still an unknown bachelor. It should be noted here that the Imperial Library is not the only property of the library, and the bachelors who belong to the Imperial Library may not necessarily work in the library, but may be at home, as a vassal of the nobles, or even in the palace. Maester Lemon? Is there such a person? The Empire's newly promoted well-known bachelor, Hella, frowned and questioned. Chapter 52. No, I have to go. Although Hella didn't care much about the quota, she had basically decided on it by default. As a result, she was robbed of her quota, and the one who took her quota was an unknown bachelor, which made her accept it. The more she thought about it, the more angry she became, her full chest rising and falling with her breathing. No, I'll go early tomorrow morning. Hella glanced outside. At this time, a full moon was already hanging above the sky. At this point, even in the library, there should be no one. The more you think, the more angry you get. Hella took a deep breath. She wanted to see what this lemon could do. The full moon gradually sets and the sun gradually rises. The city comes alive as the golden sun caresses the ground, the cool morning breeze blows through every street in King's Landing. Eli walked down the street, heading towards the library as usual. The homeless people on both sides are no longer the homeless people they used to be, and many shops on the street have been replaced. There are people on the road who walk briskly, some who take a leisurely walk, and some who worry about not being able to find work. The effect of Krypton number 1 is getting worse and worse. I need to redo my plan. Unfortunately, the content about potions that Saren Meditlin left me is really scarce, and there are no other spiritual potions. It seems that I can only rely on time is running out. Walking on the road, Eli thought nonchalantly. It is indeed difficult to configure a complete potion, Eli, but if Eli's conditions are simpler, for example, it may not be so difficult to configure a potion that consumes life force and permanently increases spiritual power. But the only problem is that although Roland's Chamber of Commerce has developed a lot, it is basically limited to the Empire, and the materials are all materials that can be found in the Empire. It is a pity that he has no channels in other countries. Hey, forget it, take one step at a time, it's a big deal to grind slowly over time. Eli was very relaxed. In fact, the spiritual potion is not necessary for him. Although it's cool to quickly improve his mental strength, he actually cares more about which process. For wizards, spiritual power can certainly be transformed into spiritual power, but in the final analysis, knowledge is the real source of a wizard's power. But knowledge will not come out of thin air, and the inheritance he has obtained is limited, so he can only use it as the foundation already in the notes to continuously extend and expand. The easiest way is to keep doing all kinds of experiments and conducting all kinds of investigations. For example, in the experiment of configuring Krypton Destiny 1, in addition to the unexpected success of the potion, the changes in potions that Eli learned and directly felt were more important than the success of the potion in his opinion. So, to be knowledgeable. Learning can't be missed for a moment, and experiments can't be stopped for a long time. While thinking, Eli also quickly came to the library. After arriving at the library, Eli knew that something special had happened today. Maester Lemon was called out early in the morning, while Herman accompanied his fiancée out to play, saying, "Some time ago, this guy was also engaged." Eli also met the girl at the time, who was average but seemed comfortable. Eli also observed, "Is a very clean girl." In the blink of an eye, the escaped Herman was about to get married, and he could only say that time passed by too much. "Okay, fishing for a day today." Both the teacher and the seniors ran away, and Eli decided to fish for a day today. Go directly to the second floor and open the door to the teacher's office. Then he went in, lay down on the reclining chair beside him, and began to think about the problems he encountered in the experiments these days. The other side. A bright and delicate carriage stopped at the entrance of the library. A woman got off the carriage. She was wearing a white elegant long dress with a slender waist and walked towards the library wide and wide. The eyes of the people around her instantly focused on this beautiful lady. The only thing they regretted was that the woman also wore a black gauze hat to block her face. This must be a beautiful lady. Everyone was amazed. Hella was already used to this situation and walked towards the library. "Beautiful lady, please come in." The guard at the door greeted Hela when he saw Hela coming. "Do you know where Maester Lemon is?" Hela hadn't been to the library since a long time ago, and she didn't know what happened to Maester Lemon. As if being questioned by Hela, the guard only felt extremely happy at this time, and stammered, "Beautiful lady, the office of Bachelor Lemon is on the second floor, the one closest to the right side of the corridor." "Okay, thank you," Hela politely said, and then walked straight into the library. Probably due to beauty, there was no one blocking her along the way, and she went straight up to the second floor and arrived at the room the guard said. "Dong dong dong." Hela gently knocked on the door. Hearing the knock on the door, Eli, who was lying down, also stood up at once. "Is the teacher back so soon?" Eli was a little surprised. The mental power was swept out, and the image of Hela outside the door was reflected in Eli's consciousness. "It's a woman, and she's beautiful, I don't know." "Come in." Eli didn't know who it was, but he still felt that he should come in first. Hela outside the door heard the sound, but also gently opened the door and walked in. "What a beautiful woman." Eli was also a little surprised to see the woman. Such a beautiful woman is not so common in the Empire. "Is this Maester Lemon?" Hela looked at Eli. Because of the changes, Eli's face age was not young but not too old. Hela estimated that he was around 23-28 years old. Since Hela didn't know Lemon, she didn't know how old Lemon was. But seeing Lemon so young, a lot of ideas came to her mind. The first thought came to her. That is, this is the descendant of a gilded great noble. In fact, whether it is a library, a monastery, or even a knight academy, there are similar people. When they come here, they actually want to gild them, but the titles given to them are actually different. Generally speaking, their bachelors are equivalent to normal ordinary scholars. Thinking of her quota being replaced, only the great nobles can do it, and it is difficult for ordinary bachelors to access that level. Therefore, Hela was very angry at this time. If her quota was given to an old bachelor, then he might be a little less angry, but at this time, she was really angry. However, she still decided to test and teach Bachelor Lemon first, to see how bad his academic ability was when this bachelor replaced him. And judging from the expression on Maester Lemon's face, he didn't know her. "What's the matter with you?" Eli looked strange. This woman didn't say anything as soon as she came in. Maybe something was wrong. "That's right, I came to the library recently, I've been studying, and I have a lot of doubts. I heard that you have a lot of knowledge. I want to ask some questions, okay?" Hela asked. "Have to?" Eli still wondered what was going on, just asking for advice. Occasionally, he does encounter people from the library to ask questions. Like Rias, Eli generally doesn't get in the way, it's all simple questions anyway. It is a pleasure to be helpful. Of course. Eli replied with a smile. Thank you so much. Hela thanked, and the question to ask should pop up in her mind. Chapter 53. Hela left, her eyes were dull and she left. On the carriage, Hela even forgot how she opened the door, how she got down from the second floor of the library, and how she got into the carriage. She sat on the carriage, took a few deep breaths, and clutched her chest. It's not that I'm angry, but that people are a little confused. How could this be? Hela took off her veil, pinched her beautiful face, and doubted her life. For the first time in her life, she was frustrated academically. She closed her eyes and recalled what happened in the library just now, as if every picture was still clearly visible. Originally, she started to ask with the mentality of taking the exam, and then she asked some questions that were not difficult, but she didn't expect Lemon to answer them all, and also gave some questions. Details she didn't notice. This also aroused Hella's competitive spirit. Gradually, the two gradually went from questioning, to discussion, to arguing, and finally to silence. As for why it was silent, because Hella asked a lot of questions that she knew and was confused, and then the two refuted the idea, but every time they argued and argued, she found that Eli was right every time. So Hella was silent. Fortunately, it didn't make a big fuss this time. It was me who was impulsive. Hella shook her head mockingly, but she always thought that even among the bachelors, she should be in the forefront. But today, her confidence was completely shattered. And Lemon is still so low-key, Hella has not even heard of him, but he is such an unknown bachelor, Hella thinks that he is no worse than a bachelor's knowledge. So amazing. This reminded her of what the teacher taught her back then, that a true scholar should always keep a humble and learning heart. She used to not understand this sentence, but now she seems to understand. Maester Lemon is the best embodiment of this statement. As for herself, what the youngest bachelor, what the most beautiful bachelor, the lady who might become the first female bachelor of the empire. She thought of all the honors of the past, but it turned out to be just a cloud. Next, I have to settle myself well. Hella clenched her right fist and glanced at the outside of the carriage, gradually moving away from the library, and Lemon appeared in her mind. Lemon, I will definitely surpass you. Facing Chu Yang, Hella said firmly. I can really ask. I finally left. In the library, Eli stretched his body, skillfully took out Lemon's cup, and poured himself a cup of tea. Such a beautiful lady, how can she be so inked? One question after another, but it was a little troublesome to ask him. Whoever wants to marry her will be out of luck. Eli said. I thought it was just a few questions, but I didn't expect that the woman kept asking him for almost half an hour, and the woman always blushed and bowed her head in shame. As for the question the woman asked, Eli didn't feel anything. If you can basically read through the library books, those questions can be easily answered, although of course it may take a little memory and the ability to link knowledge together. As it happens, these Elis are strong. However, it is really beautiful, but it is a little stupid, and some questions always take a long time to think about. I don't know how the Empire's famous genius and smart beauty scholar would feel if they knew Eli's evaluation. Hey, is that Hella? Why did you come to the library? Just as the carriage was leaving, a simple and historic carriage slowly stopped at the entrance of the library. Maester Lemon stepped out of the carriage with a look of joy, and when he saw Hella who had just left, he couldn't help but be a little puzzled. She knew Hella, but people probably didn't know him. He once met this famous new female bachelor in the Empire at a grand bachelor's banquet, and she was indeed dazzling. He felt inferior in some respects. But why did this bachelor come to the library management? Is he here to find information? Lemon had some doubts, but the doubts only lasted for a few seconds, and then they were buried by another thing. He walked quickly towards the library and walked in directly. It seems that the beautiful lady missed it. Will he come again? The guard saw Lemon, and guessed that Hella should not have found Maester Lemon. If he missed it, he wondered if he could see him a second time. That beautiful lady. But since it was not found, why did Hella go up for more than half an hour, and when she came out, she seemed to be lost. This made the guard a little puzzled. Lemon entered the library and walked directly to the second floor. He went directly to his office, and he pushed open the door without caring whether there was anyone in it. Then I saw Eli holding his cup and drinking his tea. If it was normal, he might still say a few words, but today, he doesn't have that kind of mind. Eli, go back and pack up. 3 days later, we'll set off for the Kingdom of Lorraine. Lemon said quickly. Eli? At this time, Eli was holding the teacher's teacup and enjoying the teacher's high-grade tea. Hearing the news, he was also stunned. Tidy up? Lorraine Kingdom? What is this for? Teacher, what happened? Eli asked, putting down the teacup. Hey, you don't know this time, I'm actually on the list of this visit. Hey, sure enough, I've been seen working hard all these years. I heard that the famous female bachelor of the Empire, Hella, was not selected. Sure enough, my teacher also has status. Lemon said triumphantly, as if he hadn't been so happy for a long time. Eli raised his brows and actually chose it. When did reality become so magical? Who is the Marquis leading the team this time? Eli asked after thinking for a while. It's Marquis Elena. Yes, the case is solved. Eli suddenly understood what was going on. So this is a teacher is worthy of you, this is the Empire's affirmation of you. Of course Eli would not say that, but flattered. You kid, of course. Hearing this, Maester Lemon was obviously happier, and said, I'll give you a day off today, go and pack up, don't bring too many things. Okay. Eli nodded. Originally, I was thinking that there would be no foreign materials, but this is not the case. And they are still with the parade team of the Empire, the safety is very guaranteed, and they can go to foreign countries to see the customs, or they can go out to learn more, or at public expense. Such a good thing, he has no reason to refuse. Experience is also a very important thing for wizards. Also, he should go out and take a look. For more than 8 years, he hadn't been out of King's Landing for a few kilometers, so it was time to go out once. Immortality is immortality, but it won't really be nested in King's Landing for hundreds of years, that's too boring. Chapter 54. There are still 3 days. So there is plenty of preparation time for Eli. He didn't rush back, but drank the good cup of tea before leaving. Maester Lemon didn't tell him because he was happy, and even asked him to drink more. After drinking tea, Eli left the library directly and went to the market. After all, it is a trip, he must bring some things, otherwise it is really inconvenient, from simple toiletries, to some materials he may need, he has purchased a lot. Of course, considering the weight, he is also very restrained. But for some material problems, Eli was going to go to Roland. After all, some channels are really troublesome. Since Roland's Rose Chamber of Commerce was on a street next to the market, Eli chose to walk there. Coincidentally, he also made an appointment with Roland a week ago, just today. But when Eli arrived at the Rose Chamber of Commerce, he found that the door of the Chamber of Commerce was already crowded with people. As for Roland, he must give us a guarantee. Let Roland come out. We must see Roland today, or we won't leave. At the entrance of the Rose Chamber of Commerce, a group of businessmen wearing luxurious clothes directly blocked the entrance of the Chamber of Commerce. A group of people wanted to squeeze in, but they were blocked by a group of guards from the Chamber of Commerce. Did something happen? Eli wondered. He also approached Roland once 3 months ago. At that time, Roland was in high spirits. At that time, because of the influence of the king, the Rose Chamber of Commerce received many large orders, which directly made its influence more than that of many established chambers of commerce. But today, things seem to have changed. Mr. Eli. Just when Eli was wondering, a voice came from behind. Turning his head, he saw that it was a man, and Eli had a little impression that he seemed to be someone by Roland's side. Hey, Carrie, what's going on here, what happened to Roland? Eli asked. Mr. Eli, something did happen. Carrie didn't expect Mr. Eli to remember his name, and was a little moved, but then he frowned and said. Mr. Eli, it's very complicated. I can't explain it clearly. You should talk to the boss. The boss was worried that something went wrong when you came here today, so he asked me to stay here, you and me. So, Roland is not here. Eli also understood that something must have gone wrong, otherwise it would be impossible for Roland to dare not come from the Chamber of Commerce. After Carrie finished speaking, he walked towards the street not far away, and Eli followed. Soon, Eli met Roland in the box of a tavern. However, Roland looked a little drunk at this time, leaning on the sofa with a bottle of rum in one hand, his face a little red. Eli, my friend, you're here. Roland staggered, holding up the wine bottle with his right hand. Well, what happened? After seeing Eli off, Carrie left the room, leaving the two behind. Hiccup. Roland hiccuped first, and then said, Eli, my Chamber of Commerce may be finished, and I may not be able to provide you with materials in the future. What happened? Did the Chamber of Commerce run out of funds? If you need it, I can help you. Although the material is more important, Eli is also very concerned about the status of this few friends. Haha, thank you, I knew you were rich, but this time, you can't do it with money. Roland shook his head, poured himself a glass of wine, and said. As you know, because the scale of the Chamber of Commerce has gradually expanded, I have also encountered many competitors, the biggest of which is the Cross Chamber of Commerce. They played tricks and directly cut off our domestic suppliers, but because of the previous contract, there is still a huge amount of medicinal materials that need to be delivered in batches, and now it is difficult to ride a tiger. Then how long can you last? Eli knew that it was indeed impossible to help himself at the moment. At most half a year later, the large number of orders will directly overwhelm me. No, didn't you go to the Chamber of Commerce? You should have seen that bunch of merchants. Roland grinned, full of self-deprecation. I've already sent you your materials. Roland stood up and said again, you don't need to worry about me, maybe there will be a turnaround within half a year. Don't underestimate me, I have already sent people to seek cooperation with the large chambers of commerce in several surrounding countries. Maybe there will be a turning point. Roland seemed to recover a little and said with a smile. Well, if you need it, you can come to me anytime. Eli said no nonsense. True friends don't need to talk too much. Yes, you are the person I don't understand the most. You are 2 years younger than me, but you always give me a sense of mystery. Roland nodded, being polite. Then I'll stay soon. You may need a little more personal space now, and if you drink less alcohol, it's not good for your health, and Anna will be unhappy. Seeing this, Eli knew that Roland needed someone time, and prepared to leave. Anna is Roland's current wife, and the two got married a year ago. Go away. Roland laughed and scolded, you kid, hurry up, you are 25, and not married yet. I'm not in a hurry. Eli also smiled and left the room. He's really in no hurry. However, when Eli answered the house, he realized that the house had accumulated a lot of materials, which were 3 to 5 times what Eli usually bought, which were all given by Roland. Really, I can't take care of myself. Eli looked at the material in front of him and shook his head, feeling a little complicated. Putting away the materials, Eli returned to the room. In my heart, I was going to take a look at the Kingdom of Lorraine this time to see if I could do something. 3 days later. Wind and sunshine. A huge motorcade had already assembled in a suburban manner. Just by visual inspection, it was estimated that there were hundreds of people. The carriages were parked randomly and orderly, and some of them belonged to various forces. Not far away, there are also a large number of carriages pulling unknown goods, and the number is also large. The knights, the great knights, were riding horses, exuding a powerful momentum, and a group of soldiers were also ready to set off at any time. The carriage headed by him belonged to the Elena family. At this time, the Earl was wearing luxurious aristocratic costumes, standing at the front of the line, and a person was reporting something to him. Is everyone ready? Lord Marquis, everyone has arrived. Let's go then. The Marquis nodded, then got into the carriage. After receiving the order of the Marquis, someone started to direct it after leaving. In just a few minutes, a long motorcade began to move, turned into a long dragon, and walked towards the road. Set off. Chapter 55. At this time, a carriage was in the middle and back of the line. When the coachman heard the order, he also directed the horses to move forward, and a slight bump was introduced into the carriage. Eli, this time is a parade. It can also be said to be an exchange. When the time comes to the Kingdom of Lorraine, pay attention, we also represent the library. In the carriage, Lemon sat on one side of the carriage, facing the opposite side. Road. Ma Chen is not big, but there are very few people sitting, only Eli and Bachelor Lemon. Considering that it would take a lot of time on the journey, there would not be too many people in each carriage, and the two of them directly occupied a carriage as the library side. Understood. Eli nodded and couldn't help but look at Lemon opposite. At this time, Bachelor Lemon can be described as going out in full costume. Not only has he changed into a new bachelor's uniform, but his beard has also been carefully trimmed and is in good condition. Teacher, have you never seen you so formal? Eli joked with a smile. Humph, what do you know, this is the recognition of the Empire for me, so naturally I have to be more serious. Lemon gave Eli an angry look. Eli nodded, unable to bear to expose the truth of the matter. Because they had just set off, the two chatted for a while. Oh, by the way, I saw Maester Hella come to the library the day before yesterday. Do you know what she's here for? Lemon asked suddenly, as if remembering something. Hella? I don't know. Eli shook his head. He only saw a pretty stupid woman that day, but he didn't see Hella. Oh! Lemon also asked at random, but without an answer, the two fell into silence again. Eli will not be speechless and look out of the car. The small window of the carriage reflected King's Landing, but at this time he was getting smaller and smaller in Eli's eyes, which meant that they were getting farther and farther from King's Landing, and Eli was also emotionally complicated. In 8 years, I am afraid that some novels can change several maps. He is still walking around a city. This is the first time he has been away from here. But the ecology of this world is really good. The sentimentality was only a moment, and Eli began to focus on other aspects. As the carriage moved forward, the trees on both sides gradually increased, and among the greenery, Eli could even spy on their beasts in the woods. If it weren't for the fact that there were soldiers and knights on both sides of the convoy, Eli seriously suspected that a beast would charge directly. Traveling far has never been an easy thing, especially when traveling across borders. In fact, for most people in the Empire, where you were born, there is a high probability that you will live and die, and very few people will choose to go out. So the original body was able to run to King's Landing from other places, and it was also a bit capable, or else he would have died on the road. The convoy continued into the night, and finally came to a stop in a large field of grass. The coachmen let their horses nibble on the grass on their own. Eli and the teacher came down from the carriage to relax their muscles and bones. Comfortable. Eli spread his arms and stretched them hard. Although it is even possible to lie down and sleep in the carriage, Eli prefers the natural feeling. Looking at the surrounding jungle, Eli decided to go to the neighborhood to test his understanding of the world. Eli, there are chefs in the team who are cooking. If you're hungry, you can go over and eat. I'll visit Colt University. Lemon came down and said to Eli. Oh, and don't stay away from the convoy, it's dangerous outside. Apart from Lemon, there were naturally other people on the library side, and Colt was the one with the highest status. Understood. Eli nodded. But seeing Maester Lemon heading towards the other side, he immediately walked towards the jungle on one side. To understand is to understand, but whether to listen or not is another matter. Don't stay away from the convoy, the jungle is very dangerous. Nearby, Eli encountered knights on patrol, and one of them reminded. Well, I won't be too far. Eli nodded as well, accepting the kindness. Hey, are you Eli? The patrol team was made up of 3 people, and suddenly someone said. Who are you? Eli looked at the knight who made the sound, and because he was wearing a helmet, Eli couldn't recognize him either. Saying that, the knight took off his helmet, revealing a man with red hair and a resolute face underneath. Eli blinked and remembered in his mind, isn't this the man who trained horses 5 years ago? What do you say that is? Didn't remember at all. I'm Andre. After more than 5 years, the man has obviously matured a lot, and he also exudes the breath of an intermediate knight. Of course, Andre, I remember you, 5 years ago. Eli greeted him with a smile. Hey, you are Eli. At this time, the 2 knights beside Andre also asked curiously. Eli wondered, did he know so many knights? Eli, you are very famous at the Knights Academy. 5 years ago, because of you, we added a lot of equestrian courses at the cost of 1 day less rest time per week. Famous. Andre couldn't help laughing. Eli. It is true that he is probably remembered by many people. With an equestrian class 1 day a week, it is estimated that many people secretly scold him. Yet, I was scolding Eli and Andre while I was taking the class, but it's okay, we were graduating in a year, so I felt okay, those who have been in school for 2 or 3 years are the real ones. It's uncomfortable. One of the knights laughed, and with a comparison, pain can also turn into happiness. Hey. Eli could only smile in agreement. He really didn't know there was such a thing, poor Knight Academy. But the worst is Andre. He's been sacked a lot. Another knight added. Hey, don't say this. Andre's eyes widened when he heard this, this is his dark history. It is also reasonable to think so. As the central figure in the loss to Eli, Andre must have spent an unforgettable year in the academy. Well, next time we talk, we have to patrol. Andre hurriedly dragged a few people away, he didn't want his dark history to be told. Eli watched the backs of them leaving, thinking in his heart that he should report Herman's name when he encounters a student from the Knights Academy in the future. There is a risk of being beaten for reporting your name. Hey, this is a 7-leaf flower. After Andre and the others left, Eli continued to walk towards the woods. Suddenly, Eli saw a small beige flower swaying in the wind in the grass on one side. Horse chestnut, a precious potion excipient, is difficult to find because it is a useless plant in the empire, and Eli has only one. But just came out today and came across one. No, horse chestnuts usually grow in large areas, and there must be more nearby. Eli thought of something, his eyes lit up, and he passed through the grass and entered the woods. In a clearing not far away, a pile of off-white flowers growing. Not bad. Eli's eyes lit up. With these horse chestnuts alone, he didn't come out in vain this time. Going out and encountering good things may also indicate that this parade will be very smooth. Chapter 56. After a night's rest, the journey to the Kingdom of Lorraine begins again. For safety reasons, they traveled along the main road most of the time, but occasionally they passed through the territory of some nobles. The local nobles also actively cooperated, sent people to them, and appropriately supplemented some resources to the convoy. Every time at this time, it also means that they can take a day off. After all, this is a long trip, so naturally they need to rest. Not everyone has the same physique as a knight. For Eli, it was also an interesting trip. Along the way, Eli saw a lot of interesting things, and occasionally collected some items that King's Landing did not have, and some of his knowledge also increased rapidly. 10 days later, the convoy arrives at the borderline. After negotiation, the convoy successfully crossed the borderline and entered the territory of the Kingdom of Lorraine. The Kingdom of Lorraine also sent a team of men to meet them, and the team was guided along the way. It may be true that Eli felt that seeing the horse chestnut was a sign of good luck that day. The journey went very smoothly without any obstacles. But think about it, after all, they represent the Bern Empire this time. If anything happens, it will inevitably cause a huge dispute. That is what the Lorraine Kingdom does not want to see. Therefore, the Lorraine Kingdom will definitely guarantee their safety within the country. As for Eli, he also observed all the way. In fact, the location of the Bern Empire and the Lorraine Kingdom are similar, and they are basically plain areas, but as the carriage advances, Eli also discovered the difference between the two countries. The first is land. It may be due to the difference in location. The overall soil quality of the Lorraine Kingdom is better than that of the Bern Empire, which leads to the fact that the Lorraine Kingdom can produce a large amount of food every year. In addition to its own use, it will even export a large amount of grain to the Bern Empire. Eli guessed that this was an important reason why the king chose to establish diplomatic relations with the Kingdom of Lorraine. Second is people. Eli clearly felt that the population here is not as large as that of the Bern Empire, and there should be some differences between the people here and the Bern Empire. For example, the people here are generally taller, and their eyes are large, and the main pupil color is blue. Very exotic. Of course, this is just a simple observation by Eli. If you really want to understand the difference between the two countries, you need to observe more carefully, but he has no interest in that. He came here for a public tour, not to check on the customs. In this way, Eli enjoyed the scenery along the way and arrived at their destination. The capital of the Kingdom of Lorraine, Turin. This is a city that is no worse than King's Landing, and even more prosperous than King's Landing. Thanks to the food business, the military strength of the Kingdom of Lorraine may not be as strong as that of the Bern Empire, but the degree of wealth is not bad, or even exceeds. This can be seen from the magnificence of the city walls of Turin. Whether it is a cannon every few meters on the city, or the armor of the soldiers reflecting the sun, it fully shows the wealth of the country. At the entrance of Chengchi, they were subjected to extreme inspections as usual. After the inspection, the carriage entered Turin. This is Turin. Sitting in the carriage, Eli looked outside. At this time, the carriage was driving on a very wide road. The road surface was paved with bricks, and the width was wide enough to accommodate 10 carriages running at the same time. There are shops on both sides. The shops are basically 3 or more floors. This is not seen in King's Landing, because the houses in King's Landing are generally 2-story. Of course, this is just a different habit. It may be because of the afternoon, so there are many people on the road. Most of the men are wearing grey clothes, and most of the women are wearing purple and red clothes, showing their arms and calves, and wearing jewelry or even gems on their heads, which is very sexy. This made a lot of casual soldiers look straight. You know, in King's Landing, there are very few women wearing so outside, and even if you show too much, you will be caught by the guards. But Turin is different, the status of women is much higher. Of course, this is not without reason. This is because the current supreme leader of the Lorraine Kingdom, Queen Cynthia, is a lady. Eli observed the outside, and naturally there were also people watching the convoy. Is this the symbol of the Bern Empire? On the way, a man asked an old man beside him. It should be, the symbol of the Bern Empire is the Black Dragon. You can see that the car at the front has the logo of the Black Dragon. The old man pointed to the team at the front of the team and said, "Tisk tisk, I don't know what they came to our country for. Who knows, that is a matter of nobles and queens, and what does it have to do with us?" The old man said nonchalantly. Yes, it has nothing to do with us." The man was stunned when he heard the answer, but thinking about it, it seemed like that. Even if something really happened, it had nothing to do with him. Then the man observed the convoy for a while, then turned and left. The other side. The convoy also arrived at their destination under the leadership of someone from the Lorraine Kingdom. A hotel dedicated to entertaining foreigners. But don't think that it's a hotel and think it's not good here. Quite the opposite. When Eli walked into the hotel, he looked at the tight tiles on the floor of the hotel, the chandeliers worth at least dozens of quintals hanging in the lobby, and the portraits hanging on the walls. Only then did Eli really realize that the Kingdom of Lorraine is really rich. "Eli, go to our room first." Beside Eli, Maester Lemon patted Eli's shoulder, motioning him to follow him. The two followed a pre-arranged waiter and soon came to their room. The room was also luxurious, with goose-down mattresses, smooth bedding, and mahogany furniture. Eli was fine, but this made Lemon a little stunned. "Teacher." Eli patted Lemon on the shoulder. Li Meng recovered and said leisurely, "It seems that this time the alliance may not be so simple." Eli frowned. "Does this hotel have anything to do with this alliance?" "Teacher, is there any problem?" "Asking if you don't understand, this is Eli's habit." Maester Lemon looked over and said leisurely, "I have been to Turin before, and it is also this hotel, but that was 30 years ago, and I also followed my teacher at that time. But the king at that time was not the current Queen Cynthia, but King Harriman. At that time, it was very simple here, with only one bed and simple furniture, but it was also very rough, but you look at it now, it's just a hotel, it's all like this luxury, what do you think that means?" Speaking of the last sentence, Maester Lemon looked at Eli and said sadly, "Being able to develop the country so well in such a short period of time, it seems that Queen Cynthia is not a simple character. Can she really agree to the alliance so easily?" "That's it." Eli thought what was going on. "But teacher, does this have anything to do with us?" "The negotiation should have nothing to do with us," Eli said with a strange expression. Maester Lemon. He is tired, destroy it. Chapter 57. The parade is just the surface, but the purpose of the Bane Empire this time is to seek unity. Of course, this is definitely not something that can be done in 1 or 2 days. Even if it is only a rough estimate, Eli estimates that it will take more than a few months. When he returns, the scholar test should be over. If nothing else, at that time, Herman should have become a scholar, and Rias guessed it too. After all, although she has decided to inherit some of the family property, she will definitely not give up her status as a scholar, which is a big plus point. Only poor Eli, still just an ordinary librarian. So he decided to relax a bit, and then went out to find a channel for the herbal medicine, so that it was not a waste of him to come out. However, this plan was backstabbed by Marquis Elena at the very beginning. For environmental safety reasons, except for some people, everyone else has to stay in the hotel for 3 days, and can only go out after the storm calms down. No way, Eli had to live in the same room with Maester Lemon for 3 days. Don't get me wrong, there are 2 bedrooms in every room. Eli is just thinking about some problems in the room every day, and although Bachelor Lemon can't go out, he is mixed with other bachelors every day, and Eli was invited during this period, but he was rejected. Finally, 3 days passed while Eli waited anxiously. As soon as the sun came out that day, Eli jumped up from the bed. But not only him, Maester Lemon also got up early, and earlier than him. "Eli, are you going out?" Maester Lemon asked Eli as he sorted out the suit he had bought specially for going out. "Yes, I plan to go out and see the difference between Turin and King's Landing." Eli replied with a smile. "Yes, then be careful, there are quite a few mercenaries in Turin, pay attention to safety, and run to crowded places in case of danger." Li Meng reminded. "Well, I see." Eli nodded. Then, watching Maester Lemon finish tidying up his clothes, he took out the perfume from his pocket and sprayed himself a few times. Eli joked, "Teacher, are you going to see some beautiful lady?" "You?" Maester Lemon glared at Eli and said, "Don't you know Turin's other name, the capital of perfume? Perfume is very important in this city." "Of course I know, isn't this a joke?" Eli smiled, took out the perfume he prepared from his pocket, and sprayed it briefly. "Speaking of Turin, it is not long before it has been called the capital of perfume. It has been around for more than 20 years. The origin is that Queen Cynthia likes perfume very much. In order to please the Queen, more and more new perfumes are developed, and then Turin gradually became known as the capital of perfume. Therefore, the most indispensable thing in Turin is a perfume shop, or even a little exaggerated, there may not be other shops every tens of meters, but there must be a shop selling perfume. From top to bottom, this country has a special feeling for perfume, and it is customary to spray a little perfume when going out." "Where are you going today, teacher?" Eli asked after making a joke to liven up the atmosphere. "To visit some old friends. If you want, you can go together, but I guess you will definitely refuse, so I didn't tell you." Maester Lemon glanced at him. After being together for more than 8 years, Eli knew Lemon very well, and Lemon knew Eli very well. Hee. Eli didn't answer, just smiled, worthy of being his teacher. "Let's go together." The two finished packing at about the same time, and then walked outside together. Along the way, Lemon and Eli were chatting with each other, and as soon as they walked into the hall, they saw a group of people walking towards them. Headed by Marquis Elena, then several earls, and professional diplomats. Several nobles at this time are all dressed up to attend, plus diplomats. It goes without saying that Eli knows how many people should go to the palace for the first meeting. Seeing that it was Marquis Elena and others, Bachelor Lemon also subconsciously pulled Eli to make way. After all, they were not familiar with each other, but something he did not expect happened. Marquis Elena actually took the initiative to say hello, "Master Lemon, good morning." Lemon froze for a moment. He did not expect that Marquis Elena would take the initiative to greet him. Good morning, Lord Marquis." After stammering, Maester Lemon replied. "Mr. Marquis, good morning." Eli said respectfully. "Well, we still have something to do, so let's go first." Then the Marquis said casually, then nodded and walked outside. The earls who followed him also glanced at Maester Lemon with a strange look, a little curious. Although it was just a simple greeting, everyone could tell that Marquis Elena had something to do with this Master Lemon, otherwise how could the Marquis stop and say good morning? It seems that this bachelor is not simple. Several people remembered it silently in their hearts and left with the Marquis. Eli, see it or not, this is academic status. After the Marquis and the others left, although Maester Lemon was still a little unclear, he still smiled and said to Eli who was beside him. "Of course, it seems that your reputation has spread among the upper classes." Eli glanced at the leaving Marquis and said with a smile. Needless to say, this is the kindness emanating from the Marquis. As for who, it is Eli. After all, Eli's teacher is present, and he can't directly greet Eli. That is not in line with the etiquette of aristocrats. And for no reason, he could never say hello to Eli. After all, Eli saving the Marquis was a secret, so he could only say hello to Maester Lemon. Ha ha ha. Hearing Eli's compliment, Lemon's face also blossomed with joy. He took out a purse from his clothes, took out a dozen silver tars, and handed it to Eli. "Take the flowers, I'm in a good mood today." "Okay, teacher." Eli smiled and took the money from silver tar free from Maester Lemon. Just when the teacher pays for his happiness. Taking Yinter into the money belt, Eli and Maester Lemon walked to the hotel door and separated. Lemon moved towards one side, while Eli walked towards a carriage and horse that had been exposed by the convoy earlier. "Sir, do you want to rent a carriage?" the man asked Eli, bending over before the carriage left. "Yes, I need a carriage that is as comfortable as possible. I will rent it for a week, and how much does it cost?" Eli said his request. The next negotiation has nothing to do with him, so he plans to hire a carriage to show him around Turin. And when he heard the request, the man quickly found a carriage that met Eli's requirements. Just this one. Eli was very satisfied. "There are 5 silver towers in total," the man said with a smile. "Okay." Eli nodded, and without bargaining, he directly took out 5 silver tars. After paying the money, the man soon called the driver, a middle-aged man who looked a little old. Eli also got into the carriage directly. "Sir, where are we going?" The driver's voice was dull. The most fun place." "Then Camellia Alley, there are the most beautiful women in Turin." The coachman thought for a moment and said directly, and then the carriage began to move slowly. "Camellia Alley?" At this moment, Eli in the carriage blinked. Did he mean this? However, the carriages have started to move, and it must be very troublesome to turn around, so it is not difficult for the coachman. He is so kind. Chapter 58. Afternoon. Eli walked out of a street contentedly. Looking back, it was a fairly wide street, with 3-story buildings on both sides, all kinds of red and purple silk and satin hanging outside the building, and girls standing at the entrance of the building. Sure enough, it's a little different from Bern, each with its own characteristics. Eli stretched his waist. It was not yet noon when he entered, and it was already afternoon when he came out, as expected of himself. "Sir, you're out." At this time, the driver who had been waiting outside the alley saw Eli and hurried over. "This gentleman's physical strength is really good, more than half a day." "Sir, where are we going next?" the coachman asked. "Well, I'll go to the casino here next and make up the money I spent." Eli thought for a while. He was busy today and spent a lot of money, so he had to add a little. "Okay, sir, get in the carriage." The coachman immediately took Eli to the previous carriage and lifted the curtain of the carriage. Eli went straight up. "Sit down, I'll check the car and go." In order to avoid any accidents, every time the carriage is started, it is necessary to look around to see if the carriage is in good condition. After all, someone will steal the parts of the carriage to exchange money. If there is an accident, it will be troublesome. The coachman circled the carriage while Eli sat leisurely in the carriage. The mental power can clearly perceive the situation around the carriage. The driver is checking behind the carriage. A figure is hiding at the corner of the alley and seems to be looking at the carriage. "Wait. Figures?" Eli frowned. It should be there by accident, but looking at that posture, curled up in the corner, covering his head, it looks more like hiding something. "Damn, sir, a small part of the wheel was stolen. I need to fix it." At this time, there was also the scolding of the driver from the back of the car. After all, he always needed to go to the toilet for half a day, and the result was actually true. Was stolen. In fact, this is rarely the case, because the general guest activities do not stay in one place for too long, but how could he have thought that Eli would be here for so long? Yet, Eli could say anything other than agree, but his attention was on the man on the corner. He didn't move, but he seemed to be afraid of something, his muscles were tense, and judging from the strength of his blood, he should be a low-level knight. Eli guessed that he was avoiding someone. "Find it for me, I must catch him today." Suddenly, in a street in Camellia Alley, a few burly men suddenly ran out and searched everywhere. Eli could clearly sense the fear emanating from the man more clearly. Is this a bully prostitute? Or seek revenge? Eli didn't know, and he didn't want to know, he just hoped that the man had better not involve him. There are about 7 or 8 strong men, but the weakest of them are also intermediate knights, who are exploring this side along the street. If there is no accident, they will be able to search for this side soon. Collapse. The driver carefully repaired the car behind the car. Suddenly, the man seemed determined to run straight towards Eli while most of the knights on the other side entered the other alley and had a blind spot of vision. Just 7 or 8 meters, that is, only a few seconds. Even after buying the car, the driver didn't feel that the man had slipped into Eli's compartment. A cold light suddenly appeared. "Take me away." The sharp dagger was pointed at Eli, the shadow of the dagger swaying in the carriage by the candlelight. "Okay." Eli nodded. It was only at this time that he could see the man clearly, no, or it was more appropriate to say that it was a boy, roughly the age of 19. He looked a little green, with brown hair and black pupils. Although his appearance was calm, Eli's perception told Eli, the child is now very frightened. Whether it's a fast-beating heart, tight muscles, or a slightly trembling dagger, all tell of his nervousness. "Sir, the car is repaired, we can go." At this time, the driver also repaired the car. "Let the coachman go," said the boy again, still holding the dagger. Eli nodded with a smile. Although wizards are not good at strength, Due to the improvement of spiritual power, his physical quality is not much weaker than that of low-level knights. At this distance, his safety can be completely guaranteed. Let's go then. Eli said calmly. This made the boy a little less confident. Isn't he hijacking the car? Why wasn't there a trace of panic in the eyes of the man in front of him? However, when the carriage started, the boy seemed to relax a lot. What are you afraid of? Suddenly, a voice sounded, and the boy saw that it was Eli who was kidnapped. Boy? Is this what you should be asking? Can you have a little self-consciousness of being hijacked? Obviously just an ordinary person, how can you be so brave? Shut up, keep quiet. The boy whispered, glaring at Eli. Oh, then I understand, you should be being hunted down. Let me guess, are those people your enemy, or are they hired to kill you? You are so young, the probability is not a big person, it should be a descendant of a big noble or a descendant of a prestigious businessman. To the boy's surprise, Eli began to analyze. If you are a descendant of aristocracy, it shouldn't be very similar. You don't have the habit of some nobles' long swords, and your skin is very white. You should rarely go out. Instead, you are a bit like a friend of my Chamber of Commerce. Hey? Wouldn't you be a descendant of a large Chamber of Commerce, and then be hunted down? Like a funny thing, Eli analyzed it like a cocoon. But he was only guessing. Who are you? Eli didn't know it was all. At this time the boy's heart was already a storm. Although Eli's analysis was weird, the main body didn't guess wrong, just relying on observation. I warn you, don't talk nonsense. The boy felt a little nervous inexplicably, and the dagger in his hand unconsciously wanted to be closer to Eli, as if this would make him feel more secure. He stretched out his dagger. When he saw the man in front of him smiling at him, he suddenly felt a little dizzy, his brain was dizzy, his eyes were blurry, and he felt as if he had lost something. This time is not very long, just a few seconds. But when he woke up next time, he found that the dagger in his hand had already been moved from his hand to his neck. The man in front of him, Eli, stared at the boy, with the dagger in one hand on his neck, and politely said, Sir, if you don't explain why you got into my car without permission, you will die. Feeling the coldness of the dagger on the neck, and Eli's polite smile on the opposite side, the boy's back was instantly wet with sweat. He seems to have just left the wolf's den and entered the tiger's den again. Chapter 59. Gollum. The boy's throat moved slightly, cold sweat dripping from his forehead. What just happened? In just a moment, even he didn't react, the dagger had disappeared from his hand, and in the blink of an eye he changed from the hijacker to the hijacked, like a dream. But the coldness of the dagger told him that everything was not a dream. Everything is reality. Tell me, who are you? Why are you kidnapping me? Eli had a smile on his face, like a gentleman. I just ran out because I didn't pay in Camellia Alley, and then they sent people out to chase me. The boy's voice was trembling, he understood that this distance, even if the man in front of him was really an ordinary person, was enough to kill him easily. No, you're lying. Eli shook his head, with a little star in his eyes, glanced at the boy and said, No, apart from your trembling muscles and unnatural facial expressions, if I read correctly, your body is clean and you are a virgin. Just one glance made the boy feel as if his whole body was seen through. The first half of the sentence made him feel cold, but the second half made his eyes widen. Even if the sharp dagger was placed on his neck, he still gritted his teeth and said, Well, I'm sorry, I lied. I got you, but I'm not a virgin. Hey! The voice was low but insulting. Tell me, in your situation, my patience is limited. Outside the window, the carriage was walking down the street at dusk, said Eli in the carriage. The boy glanced at Eli. Although he didn't know why, he could feel that Eli didn't lie to him, so he said slowly. My real name is Arya Kazan, and my father is the boss of the Kazan Chamber of Commerce. Arya whispered. Kazan Chamber of Commerce? It sounds familiar. Eli frowned, feeling that he had heard this name before. The Kazan Chamber of Commerce is the largest chamber of commerce in the Lorraine Kingdom, and the herb and perfume businesses are the largest in the kingdom, Arya reminded. You are the son of the owner of the Kazan Chamber of Commerce? Then why are you being hunted down? Doesn't your father know about it? Although it was strange, judging from Arya's expression, he didn't lie. That's because my father died, and my uncle Joseph secretly used his former power to gain the support of 2/3 of the Chamber of Commerce and occupied the Chamber of Commerce. Speaking of which, Arya gritted her teeth. Then why is he still chasing you? You have no ability to resist, he still wants to kill you. Eli was a little curious. Because my father left me all the land deeds of the Chamber of Commerce, he wanted to arrest me. Knowing her situation, Arya didn't dare to tell lies. You let me go. If I take back the rights of the Chamber of Commerce, I will definitely repay you. Arya was emotional and looked at Eli's eyes and said earnestly. Do you think you still have hope? Elijah's sharp mind made Eli quickly analyze the situation, but he didn't think Arya Kazan could retake the Chamber of Commerce. One side is the large Chamber of Commerce with a large number of people, and the other side is the one person Arya Kazan. How to see how unreliable. In fact, he heard that he was the son of the owner of the Kazan Chamber of Commerce, and Eli was a little surprised, because the Kazan Chamber of Commerce could solve Eli's purpose of coming here this time. But then he understood that he was just a child who had just met a discarded child. This time, Arya was also silent. If he could really retake the Chamber of Commerce, he wouldn't be so embarrassed by being chased. If it wasn't for the sudden arrival of a carriage, he might have been caught. After a few seconds, he said, actually, I still have a direction. As long as I can get the support of the big nobles behind the Chamber of Commerce, I can retake the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce is not all traitors, and there are people who can be trusted. There must be nobles behind every large Chamber of Commerce, and it is precisely because of their support that the Chamber of Commerce can function better. But why do you think the big nobles behind the Chamber of Commerce will support you? For them, I think there should be no difference whether it is you, Arya Kazan or Joseph. Eli shook his head, AI in front of him. Ria is naive like a child. No, the nobles behind the Kazan Chamber of Commerce are different. They are real top nobles. She doesn't care how much profit the Kazan Chamber of Commerce can bring him. In fact, our Kazan Chamber of Commerce can get her support only because of our Chamber of Commerce. Perfume making, the Chamber of Commerce has the top perfumes of the empire. She's a fragrance fanatic, and as long as I can come up with a better fragrance, I'll have her support. Arya hesitated, and said more. Perfume fanatic. Eli raised his eyebrows. The world is getting more and more ridiculous. But it's normal. If she doesn't care who provides her with benefits, but only wants perfume, then it seems that if Arya Kazan can come up with better perfume, she can really get the support of the nobles behind her. Eli looked at Arya suddenly with a different look. If this is the case, there is great potential value in Arya Kazan. This project, he Eli Lucifer kind of wanted to vote. Then do you have a better perfume? Eli asked with concern, with the dagger still on Arya's neck. No. Arya was really silent this time. Eli. Sure enough, he shouldn't believe this kid. But if he can get Arya Kazan to get the Chamber of Commerce, then many of Eli's problems can be solved, whether it's his material problem or Roland. And perfume, he can't do normal perfume, but if you use the ability of the wizard, it is completely possible. Sir, I'm really sorry, if you're willing to let me go, I'll take back the Chamber of Commerce in the future. Arya pleaded with a sincere look, he was really afraid that Eli would kill him with a knife. Of course. What Arya didn't expect was that Eli smiled this time. Arya's eyes widened, ready to thank him. There's no need to thank you in a hurry, let's do it, I want to discuss a business with you. Eli looked at Arya, his eyes softened a lot. What business? Arya was a little surprised. I can provide you with better perfume to help you retake the Chamber of Commerce. But according to the principle of equal exchange, you also need to pay something. Eli smiled. Arya was completely confused now. Better perfume. If it wasn't for the dagger around Arya's neck, he had to laugh, knowing that the Kazan Chamber of Commerce made its fortune from perfume, but this man in front of him said he had better perfume, wasn't that a joke? Yes. Facing the question, Eli nodded again. Yes. She wanted to refuse, but looking at Eli's eyes, Arya felt inexplicably attracted, as if she wanted to subconsciously agree to him. He is already like this, what else can he not promise? What if it does happen? Okay. Arya nodded as if her will was getting stronger and stronger. Then what do you want? Arya asked suspiciously. You'll know when that happens. Eli smiled, but didn't answer this time. I'll come to you in 3 days. Eli patted Arya on the shoulder and handed him the dagger. I'm here, you should leave too. At this time, the carriage had also arrived at the casino, and Eli patted Arya on the shoulder and got out of the car. Arya looked at the dagger in her hand and was stunned. This is nothing, but he still took advantage of the moment when the coachman parked the carriage at the back, ran out of the carriage, ran to other places, judged the direction, and decided to go to the ant he believed in. But on the way, he suddenly stopped. He didn't seem to tell me where to meet in 3 days. On the way, Arya blinked, feeling that she had met a strange person. Chapter 60. Time always flies, and by the time Eli came out of the casino, it was already night. What a nice place! Eli came out of the casino and stretched. Behind it is a splendid 3-story building with a long red carpet in front of the building. Few people come and go without money. This is the largest casino in Turin. Turin's business is indeed better than Bern's. Eli has seen many novel ways in the casino, and many of the amounts are far more than Bern's casino. Eli also gained more than 30 hinters. However, Eli didn't cheat, just played normally, and this amount, here, is not too big, so no one will trouble him. Sir, you're out. The coachman waited beside the carriage in a bored manner, and saw Eli coming over immediately. Ding! Agent R was thrown and streaked across the sky. The driver's eyes were stared, and he caught the gold coin with the most sensitive movements in his life. Feeling the dense feel of Hintar, the driver felt that he was about to fly. Sir, is this? He asked anyway. Reward money. Eli smiled and got into the carriage. You are the most generous gentleman I have ever met. As long as you are still in Turin, I will serve you at any time. The coachman was completely convinced by Eli. This was the biggest reward he had ever received in his life. He hurriedly got into the carriage and asked, Sir, where are we going now? Now even if Eli said something to go to the palace, he would dare to go with him. Back to the hotel. A voice came from inside the carriage. Okay, sit down. The driver was still tired at this time, he sat up straight, and drove the carriage. Hiss! The horse let out a low neigh and carried the two away. The theme of this day was to relax, except that meeting Arya was a minor accident. But Eli doesn't mind investing. After all, his cost is not too big. Once he succeeds, the benefits will be huge, even so big that Eli can not only completely solve the economic problems, but also the medicinal materials and Roland's problems. Even in the middle of the conversation, he applied some spiritual guidance, which allowed the conversation between the two to proceed smoothly. Tomorrow is to find a solution to the perfume problem. Thinking about what to do tomorrow, Eli fell asleep. The next day, before Eli could go out, he had already received a message. The first round of negotiations failed. It seems that Queen Cynthia felt that the alliance was meaningless, so the first round of negotiations directly rejected the request of the Bane Empire. This made the entire Bane Empire a little frustrated. However, although the start was not smooth, Marquis Elena did not give up. There will be a second negotiation in 3 days, and there may be new progress at that time. Of course, the defeat of the diplomatic corps had little effect on Eli. Eli was still riding in the carriage from yesterday, but instead of going to another place, he asked the coachman to take him to another place. Sir, this is the local perfume workshop, are you sure you are here? The coachman took Eli to a street along the river. It was built along a river in the city, but the nearby area was dyed in various colors, and houses stood on the street, exuding various smells. Yes. Eli stepped off his horse, and the invisible wind immediately dispelled the scent near his nose. No way, as Turin's largest perfume production base, if you don't work here all year round, it's best to wear some masks and other items, otherwise the various smells will make you very uncomfortable. And he came here, of course, to make perfume. He first had to rent a venue, and then came to conduct his experiments. Sir, it's all your own, if you want to rent it, it might be difficult. Eli had already told the driver of his purpose when he arrived, so he endured the itching of his nose. Really? Eli just glanced at him. After half an hour. In front of a building. Sir, don't worry, this place will be yours in the next 3 days. I will leave here with my family. You can also drive the workers here at will. In front of a small perfume workshop, a man in the middle bent over and said with a coquettish smile, while behind him was a woman in sackcloth holding a 7 or 8-year-old girl in her arms. She didn't seem to understand why, after the handsome brother in front of her took out 30 hinters, her father took them away with their luggage. Well, sir, then we'll go first, and you can handle the rest as you like. After that, the man hurriedly dragged his family away from here, as if he was afraid that Eli would regret it. Behind Eli, the driver looked at the few people who were running as fast as their lives, and the corners of his mouth twitched. What did he just say? You help me buy something now. Eli faced the driveway behind him as the original owner of the perfume workshop left. Okay, sir. Naturally, the coachman would not refuse. Then Eli said and handed the driver a list and enough money to buy it for Eli. Eli turned around and entered the room. Although this is a small workshop, it has the ability to produce perfume, and this is the capital of perfume. Even if it is just a small workshop, the perfume here will not be too bad. Sure enough, the worker in the workshop handed Eli a freshly made perfume. Eli smelled the fragrance of the perfume and nodded. This kind of quality as a base, with his potion, should be enough. That's right, Eli didn't plan to make a perfume from the very beginning. After all, although he has a strong learning ability, how could it be possible to make a top-level perfume in 3 days? That is unreasonable and impossible. Eli's plan is to combine a small amount of charm potion on the basis of the existing perfume, and then come out with a special appeal, but also have the original fragrance. Since it is impossible to win on the original track, it is better to open up a new track. Of course, this is not easy. The difficulty lies in the matching of potions and perfumes, but it is still much easier than making a perfume from scratch. 3 days should be almost enough. Half an hour later, the driver brought the materials, which surprised Eli a little, not as fast as the driver. I'll go back in the evening, you can come here when the time comes, and now you can go to other places. Eli took the materials and said to the driver. Sir, you've paid, I'll just wait here. The driver said with a smile. It is good. Eli did not refuse either, and directly entered the workshop with the materials. 2 days later. Inside the studio. Eli looked at the perfume that had just been prepared on the table and showed a satisfied smile. The perfume making was successful.